Australia has a lot of spiders, but recently we found a new one, because of course we fucking did. And the new one is the most certified Australia moment I've ever seen. For a bit of context, one of the several thousand spider species we are home to is the Sydney funnel web, the deadliest spider on the planet. Because of course it's down here. Where the fuck else did you think you were going to find it? These scary looking fuckers are highly venomous and can flatline you with a bite in 15 minutes. And if you think wearing thick clothes will save you, be aware the bastards have fangs long enough to punch through shoe leather. Now, why do I bring these little nightmares up? What is the one thing worse than a spider rocking armor-piercing rounds that can send you to heaven with same-day delivery? A bigger spider rocking the same perk setup. That's right, Australian scientists have found a brand new species of this funnel web that is even bigger. How much bigger? Well, the standard Sydney funnel web grows to around 5 centimetres or 2 inches. And I mean, if you're asking me, 2 inches is more than enough. 2 inches is actually fucking huge. By comparison, this is the new one. It's twice the fucking size, cunt! 4 inches of 8-legged menace to the animal kingdom. But that isn't even the best part. You see, do you know what they named this thing? Do you know what professional scientists named a supersized version of the most dangerous spider on the entire fucking planet? The Newcastle Big Boy. Deadliest spider on the entire fucking globe. Big Boy. Only in Australia. Platypus are weird, but I'm not sure you quite understand just how fucking weird. See, everyone knows the basics. They lay eggs, they sweat milk, and they look like God hit randomizer on the spore creature creator and just called it a day. But you see, mate, that's barely even scratching the surface of weird platypus features. First up, as is the qualifier for any Australian animal, did you know they're venomous? No, I'm not fucking with you, you heard me correctly. Male platypus actually have venomous spurs on their hind legs. These spurs are multi-purpose, acting as defense from predators, as well as a tool for throwing hands with other male platypus during mating season. And while their venom is non-lethal, that doesn't mean that getting stung by them doesn't fucking suck. See, platypus venom can cause extreme pain and swelling, and to ensure you remember not to fuck with them again, these effects can last for several months and have no treatment or anti-venom. So if Perry stabs your shit, your only option is to cry about it. Next on the list of offensive capabilities, I shit you not, platypus share the same hunting method as sharks. You see, that big-ass bill isn't just for show, as it contains enough surveillance equipment to make the CIA blush. Possessing the ability to sense changes in pressure in the water, but most importantly, containing electroreceptors that track electrical signals from muscle contractions made by their prey. Meaning that when whatever they're chasing starts quaking in fear, they know about it. And last but not least, as if those things weren't already unbelievable, we recently discovered something new. Platypus are fucking biofluorescent. They glow. If you hit these things with a black light, they go bright fucking green. And the best part of that is, we have no clue why they do it. I guess it just means Perry was a biblically accurate platypus man. I'll give up, man. Who fucking designed this thing? This seal is such a menace that he routinely gets the cops called on him. Introducing our protagonist, Neil the Seal, a 600 kilo absolute unit of a southern elephant seal from my home state of Tasmania in the land down under, who is known for, above all else, being an absolute fucking menace to polite society. But despite his crimes, we all still truly love him. But what are his crimes? Well, see, he seems to just fucking hate traffic cones and road safety in general, has regularly been caught trespassing, and then once he has been caught trespassing, belligerently screaming at locals because they won't give him his fucking fish, and has been known to just block roads by plopping his fat ass down directly in the middle of them. However, hands down, the funniest shit he has ever done was just straight stopping this random lady from going to work. I shit you not. This motherfucker crawled out of the ocean, up the beach, crossed the road, absolutely fucking bodied this woman's poor letterbox, and then proceeded to plant himself directly in front of her fucking car. She was then unable to go to work because this half-ton beefcake was camping her driveway for so damn long. Local news had time to drive out to her house and cover the fucking story. Now, this is a lot of menace for a single seal to cause, but the funniest part of this is, old mate isn't even fully grown. He's like 5 years old. If you think he can fuck things up now, wait until he's nearly 2 solid-ass tons of blubber and takes issue with the wall of your house. I do not think that seal damage is covered on my fucking insurance plan, dude. Wombats defend themselves by, throwing it back. But to understand how the fuck they actually do it, you're gonna need to learn a little bit about them first. You see, Australia is home to 3 species of these bad boys, all of them equally adorable, and very importantly, all being burrowers, meaning they dig out a nice little hole for themselves and the family to live in, because, like the rest of us, they can't afford a fucking house in this economy, man. They grow to around 1.3 meters in length, but despite being small, they are built like fucking tanks, weighing in at a chunky ass 35 kilos, but despite their weight, I shit you not, they have a top speed of 40k an hour. Now, the fact that they can nearly get booked in a school zone, coupled with them being a tank-class marsupial, forms the start of their defense strategy. So you see, a fun fact about wombat anatomy is they spect all their defense points into their ass. Rather than having fat and muscle, a wombat's cheeks are made out of 4 thick plates of fused cartilage, making it extremely solid. And this Kevlar BBL allows for the fucking funniest defense mechanism I have ever seen on an animal. Basically, if a predator tracks down Mr. Wombat to his burrow, it'll stick its head in and start trying to dig him out. In response, the wombat will line his ass up with the tunnel door, chuck the gear shifter into reverse, and fucking floor it backwards up the tunnel into his aggressor, slamming his ass into its head. The impact then squashes the predator between his steel cheeks and the roof of the burrow, straight up crushing its skull like a Mortal Kombat fatality. I cannot make this shit up. Stepping on this rock could straight up paralyze you. That's because this isn't actually a rock. That is a stonefish, a species of underwater menace native to Australia. And coming as a surprise to absolutely no one, it is also the most venomous fish in the ocean. Because of course it is. As if the fucking snakes and spiders weren't enough, now I can get packed up by a pet rock. But why is this Pokemon reject such a threat to my mental health? Well, you see, stonefish use their special venom for defense. However, unlike most other animals that do this little f***er doesn't have the decency to dress like a neon sign to warn you. No. This bastard is a 6th prestige prop hunt veteran, having evolved some of the most impressive camouflage in the animal kingdom to make hunting easier. And once they've set themselves up, they are basically indistinguishable from Patrick Starr's house. Now, this is a fairly major problem as they love to live in the shallows on the beach, and that venom we talked about earlier is stored in these 13 giant, highly toxic spines that deliver venom when pressed on. You can probably see where I'm going with this. Considering it's hard enough to spot these things while you're paying attention, if you were, say, on a romantic walk along the beach with one of the homies, and while distracted by his ethereal beauty, weren't paying too much attention to where you were walking, it would be very easy to place your foot in the wrong spot and step directly onto 13 hypodermic needles, which would then deliver a ginormous dose of neurotoxin straight into your system. Oh, you thought it was normal venom? No. You see, these things maxed out the toxin skill tree, producing a mixture of 2 neurotoxins that can flatline you by collapsing your heart and lungs in under an hour. And even if you survive, the sting still causes extreme pain, swelling, and tissue necrosis. Because this is Australia, where even the scenery is trying to one-shot. This bird can straight hit you with a Mortal Kombat fatality. Finish him! Introducing the cassowary, a species of ratite native to the land down under. And for once, guys, it's not venomous. Can still flatline you though, and I'm going to tell you how. You see, these neon chickens belong to the same family of birds as the emu, and as such share their impressive size, coming in at a solid 79 kilos and growing up to 6 feet tall, meaning the short kings in my audience could, in theory, mount these things like a chocobo. But what makes them stick out from emus? Well, you see, the cassowary is basically a spec ops emu, being twice the weight, highly territorial, and most importantly, coming with a combat knife strapped to their foot. That's right, this is a cassowary claw, and it's the reason they can hit you with a fighting game finisher. You see, these claws are a full 5 inches long. And you know what I mean? Honestly, 5 inches, way too big for anything, and especially for something that's going inside me. And if you anger the tactical assault turkey, that is exactly what you're gonna get, as their go-to defense method is to kick you square in the gut with that kitchen knife and attempt to disembowel you. And I mean, even if the kick doesn't put your insides on the outsides, that kick is still going to send you flying, which can cause some fairly major problems. Problems like the incident that occurred in 2012, where I you not, a cassowary ran up behind a random tourist, hit the heavy attack button, and kicked the guy down a small cliff into the ocean. I mean, luckily he survived, but the fact that I live in a country where at any point I could be hit with a sneak attack by a kaiju turkey is f***ing terrifying.
Australia lost a war to emus.
But how? How the f*** did we lose an armed conflict with flightless birds? Well, it all started in 1932 when farmers in Western Australia wanted to grow wheat. There was just one major problem. That's emu territory, and emus really like wheat. And coming in at 6 foot tall and 40 kilos in weight, they can eat a lot of it. So when breeding season came around, the emus migrated through the farmland, and these poor farmers were overwhelmed by a tyrannid swarm of man-sized poultry, 20,000 emus strong. These feathered tanks then proceeded to completely steamroll through the fences into the fields and started laying waste to the wheat. The farmers attempted to fight back the initial wave with rifle fire, but their efforts were, putting it lightly, completely useless. This ginormous L made the farmers pretty bloody angry, so they gathered together and went to the government to ask for help. Sir, 20,000 emus have hit the wheat fields. Me, mate. And so the government declared the emus enemies of the state and sent in the army to commence the Great Emu War. The entire 7th Heavy Artillery Division was deployed to WA, armed with 2 LMGs, 10,000 rounds, and the sole objective to blast anything with feathers. A little bit excessive for an overgrown turkey if you ask me, and upon their first deployment, the army immediately ran into a major problem. Emus are fast.
I am speed.
Really fast, clocking a top speed of 50 kilometers an hour, which meant that once they opened fire, the emus would immediately bolt out of range of their weapons. But they still took a crack at it, and then immediately stopped when both LMGs jammed after only dropping 12 emus. This embarrassment led the army to retreat and rethink their plan. So a few weeks later they returned, this time mounting the LMGs on trucks in an attempt to run the birds down. However, this also didn't work, because after figuring out that those trucks meant they were about to be turned into a KFC family bucket, the emus started leaving scout birds who would warn the flock of the approaching trucks, which gave them all enough time to book it before the army even got there. And whenever they did catch the emus, they found out they were kind of... Because emus are mostly feathers, and there's a lot of places you can hit on them without doing any damage, meaning it was taking around 10 bullets for every 1 bird. So after a month of blood, sweat, tears, and 10,000 rounds of ammunition, the army managed to bring down 960. The population was 20,000. This was an issue as, unlike America, our defense budget is not a bottomless pit. So the army had wasted all that money to achieve absolutely fuck all. So the government just kind of built a really long, really shit fence around the farms and called it a day. How the fuck did we lose this? I could have done a better job with a boomerang and a cricket bat. Kangaroos can and will beat you up. That's right, just because it's not venomous doesn't mean it can't knock you on your ass, and Australia's most iconic marsupial can do just that. Because they are way bigger than you think they are. With our biggest species of roo coming in at a ridiculous 2.8 meters in length. And with the iconic hop, they've got a vertical jump of 3 meters. I mean, honestly, with a stat spread like that, they don't belong in the outback, they belong on a f***ing NBA court. As if that wasn't enough, they're also built like tanks, weighing in at a full 90 kilos of roid-raging rabbit muscle, and being able to move way faster than anything that heavy has any right to, pegging the speedo at a max of 70k an hour. Meaning if you make them angry, a juiced up rat the size of a small car is going to run your ass down and beat the f***ing brakes off you. And I'm not kidding when I say they really will rock your shit, because roos are professional kickboxers, with males routinely fighting MMA to win female attention. When they fight, kangaroos will lean back on their tails as a stabilizer and immediately start scratching and kicking the ever-loving shit out of one another. And those kicks have enough force to crack bone. And as if getting drop-kicked by a muscled marsupial wasn't bad enough, they also for some reason have the same bite force as a grizzly bear, because why not? Now, even with all of this, there are still animals stupid enough to view a roo as lunch, which brings me to the most terrifying thing that they do. When threatened, kangaroos will hop into a body of water and wait for whatever is chasing them to follow them in. Once the predator enters the water, the kangaroo will wrap its arms around their neck and just straight up drown them. What the man? I share a country with psychopathic tren rats. Oh! Touching this plant will put you in the hospital.
I'm dying.
This is the Gimpy Gimpy plant, a piece of foliage native to the land down under. And surprising no one, not only is the thing venomous, it is in fact the most painful plant on the planet. Because yeah, no, of course, man, even the fucking leaves down here have a problem with me. Growing in the rainforests of northern Queensland, these hell bushes are covered in tiny hairs that upon closer inspection aren't hairs at all and are actually thousands of hypodermic needles waiting to stab you and break off inside your skin if you so much as brush them. Once inside you, these needles will inject you with, I am not kidding, neurotoxin and cause absolutely excruciating pain. I mean, like comedic levels of pain. With one person describing it as being covered in hot acid and electrocuted, and another woman saying that it was straight up more painful than childbirth and she'd given birth 4 times. And the fucked up part is, the neurotoxin isn't even lethal. So this spiteful of a plant is hurting you purely for the love of the game. Mind you, there are reports of people saying getting stung by this thing is actually worse than being put in the ground. This is because Groot's little hellspawn cousin here can continue hurting you for literal years after being stung. This is because those thousands of little hypodermic needles are actually made out of silicon, meaning your body can't break them down. And with how thin they are, your skin will usually close up over the top of them, meaning that these neurotoxin emitting slivers can sit inside your skin for literal years, releasing more neurotoxin anytime that they're moved or disturbed. This constant, chronic, agonizing pain is so unbelievably bad that there have even been records of, trying not to get banned here, people Alt F4ing existence to make it stop. This particular incident came from a man who accidentally used one of the plant leaves as toilet paper. I don't think it gets much worse than neurotoxin to the nuts. I have been assaulted by a cow. One of the cows is called Monty, and he's an adolescent, and I made the mistake of turning around for like 5 seconds, and in that 5 seconds, this 500-kilo cow runs up behind me while I'm sorting out his food and tries to f***ing mount me. He nearly f***ing squished me. If I hadn't been hitting legs, I would have been squashed by a horny f***ing cow. This bird has to rearrange its organs and skeleton just to lay an egg.
This cute little guy is the kiwi bird, a species of ratite native to New Zealand this time, and the absolute poster child for getting cucked by evolution.
You see, this walking featherball is actually directly related to the emu, ostrich, and cassowary, being a member of the same family of flightless birds. However, there is a problem. You see, the rest of the kiwi's bloodline actually looked up a build guide before picking their stat spread, and as such made sure to trade the whole flying thing for something useful.
With all of his cousins specking into speed, size, and some kind of offensive capability.
So that leaves the question, what did the kiwi pick to make up for not flying? Absolutely f***ing nothing. Kiwis are tiny in comparison to their relatives, coming in at only 4 kilos in weight and 50 centimeters tall. This is because kiwis evolved largely on an island with no natural predators, so they downsized and traded out the knife feet and bloodlust for just being a little guy with a good attitude, which honestly worked pretty well for them, until the British did British things, and now they have to deal with cats and dogs trying to eat them. And considering this build was not designed for PvP, they have been clapped so hard by invasive species that they are now unfortunately an endangered animal. But getting shafted by the British is just the beginning of the generational violation of the kiwi, because these poor feathered fruits can't even reproduce without getting f***ed over. You see, the kiwi bird's cousins are famous for laying huge eggs. I'm talking hit your protein macros in one meal-sized eggs. And you would think that is because they are large. And you would be wrong. Because their vertically challenged cousins have to lay eggs the same size.
A kiwi bird lays eggs 20% the size of their body. With the egg being so bloody large, it rearranges their internal organs and stretches their rib cage just to be able to hold the thing. For reference, that is like a human giving birth to a 15-kilo child. That's not a bun in the oven anymore. That's a whole f***ing bakery.
I ate lunch with a wild lizard. You see, before I made the videos, I worked as a handyman, and one day a client asked me to do some brush cutting because their lawn was, putting it lightly, completely f***ed. So I'm taming a miniaturized version of the Amazon jungle, and I see something that nearly gives me a heart attack. A big lump of scales slithering through the brush about 2 steps ahead of me. Being Australian, I immediately assumed it was a snake, which is a problem, because the only 2 snakes in my home state are highly venomous and extremely aggressive. So I immediately stopped what I was doing, backed the f*** up, and got ready to call in the snake catcher to relocate the angry hospital noodle.
Help me.
However, while dialing the number, I noticed something. It was, kind of too fat to be a snake, and it hadn't tried to eat me yet. So, being the poster child for why women live longer than men, I waddled back over for a closer look, and I found this little guy. This is a blue-tongued lizard, and they're actually pretty cool. Native to Australia, these bad boys are basically a tubby skink, but as the name suggests, they have a bright blue neon tongue. Now, I couldn't just leave this distinguished gentleman in harm's way, so I yoinked him and began looking for a place to relocate him away from where I was working. However, during the relocation process, this cute little man proceeded to cuddle up to my shirt and fall asleep, and did not particularly appreciate me trying to move him from his resting place. So, considering it was the middle of the day, I just said, fuck it, called a lunch break, and proceeded to sit in the sun eating a chicken sandwich while Godzilla's little cousin took a nap on my shirt. He sat with me for my entire 30-minute lunch break without me holding him. However, unfortunately, I was only halfway through my workday, so after I wrapped up lunch, I had to say goodbye. I very delicately removed my new scaled friend from my shirt and released him back into the wild.
Alrighty, big fella.
Off you go, back into the bushes. There you go.
See you, friend.
I think this incident legally qualifies me as the first Australian Disney princess. There was a big-ass huntsman that used to live in my house, and I'm gonna be honest, dude, I kinda just let him hang out.
He ain't f***ing small. I'll tell you that much. There's a huntsman, and they do ooh.
I was quite happy to let him just chill, because, I never saw a f***ing mosquito or a fly in that house. So he was paying rent in his own way, you know? This animal will peel your face off like a banana. Introducing the one creature that strikes fear into the hearts of every Aussie. The infamous, terrifying drop bear. A species of predatory marsupial exclusive to the land down under. This genuine nightmare may seem pretty normal at first, closely resembling the koala bear, and that is by design. You see, the drop bear is an ambush predator, patrolling the branches of the eucalyptus tree and using their keen sense of smell to detect incoming prey. And once they can smell you approaching, they will position themselves in the leaves of the trees, being basically impossible to spot unless you're actively looking for them. And even if you do see them, you're automatically going to assume it's a koala. And that assumption is probably going to be the last mistake you make, because walking under these things is inviting the most painful death you can f***ing think of. Once you've walked into range, the drop bear will launch itself from a tree and aim directly for your f***ing head. Small animals will often be clapped on impact as the 20-kilo drop bear launched itself out of the tree so fast that it snaps their spine. And they're the lucky ones, because once they make contact with your head, drop bears will immediately puncture your scalp with their foreclaws and latch on like a fuzzy little face hugger. Once firmly attached to your skull, the drop bear will start to kick out your eyes with its hind claws in an attempt to blind you, and while they are forcing you to cosplay Daredevil, they will be tearing into your face with their fangs like a f***ing chainsaw. The attacks are so vicious, most human victims end up being completely scalped and having their faces removed. And even if you manage to pull them off in the initial assault, those claws contain a potent neurotoxin which will paralyze you in under 5 minutes, allowing them to run you down and eat you alive. Australia loses roughly 600 people per year to drop bear attacks. So if you want to survive your trip down under, I have a secret to share with you about the drop bear. And that secret is that all of this is complete and utter bullshit. Drop bears aren't real. I made it all up. April Fool's This jellyfish is basically a time bomb. Introducing the Irukandji, a species of jellyfish native to the northern waters of the land down under, and possibly my least favourite animal in the entire ocean, because it is just a massive, spiteful cunt. Well, massive is misleading, as this little guy is tiny. I mean, ridiculously small, being not much bigger than your fingernail at the head and basically completely f***ing invisible to the naked eye. This is a fairly major problem, because behind that halo cloak frame they are dragging 3-foot-long tentacles and shocking absolutely no one.
Say the line, Bart!
It is one of the most venomous jellyfish in the ocean. I'm so f***ing tired of the stealth poison multi-classes on OCE servers, dude. This shit is broken. You see, those 3-foot tentacles are covered with tiny little barbs, and at the barest touch, they will literally propel themselves into your skin like a bullet and inject you with the Australia Special, a pina colada cocktail of various neurotoxins. And upon being injected, you will feel absolutely f***ing nothing. You'll keep swimming around, splashing about in the water, kissing the homies, until you are overcome with a sudden, severe feeling of impending dread. I mean the kind of dread that will have you hysterically screaming that you are about to die. I am gonna die! I'm gonna die! I'm gonna f***ing die! That's because the invisible cunt here does psychic damage, inflicting a condition known as Irukandji syndrome, which starts with a feeling of impending doom so strong there are records of people asking to be, avoiding a ban here, forcibly disconnected from God's Minecraft server. And that feeling of doom is warranted because about 30 minutes after being stung, that biological bomb goes off, with the venom initially causing extreme pain throughout your entire body. And after making you feel like a failed isekai protagonist, the venom then spikes your blood pressure and heart rate through the roof, which can cause heart attacks, blood clots, and has even been recorded to cause brain hemorrhages.
And the f***ed up part is, it doesn't have an anti-venom.
This thing sneak attacks you, waits 30 minutes, sends you a private DM telling you it got your ass, and there is not a f***ing thing you can do about it. Toxic little shit. This pigeon saved an entire army battalion.
Heroes never die.
Introducing our protagonist, Jeremy, a carrier pigeon who is in the employ of the US Army Signal Corps during World War I. You see, back in the oldie times, radio technology was, kinda dog shit. So carrier pigeons were still the meta for DMing the homies memes over distance. Which is how, in 1918, our feathered little shock trooper here ended up in France, with 500 US soldiers stuck 3 kilometers behind enemy lines, completely cut off from supply and reinforcement in a 7-day shootout. You see, Jeremy's battalion, juiced up on freedom and red crayons, had overextended and become trapped, surrounded on all sides by German soldiers. And to make matters worse, being stuck behind enemy lines meant they were now on the receiving end of US defense spending, being absolutely hammered with friendly artillery. Now, stuck as far away as they would have had more luck using their radio as fucking nunchucks than a comms device. So they began sending out carrier pigeons in an attempt to tell command to stop fucking shelling them and help on the point. However, the Germans were having none of that shit and shot every single carrier pigeon the battalion sent out of the air like they were running an AIM Labs warm-up. Until only one remained, Jeremy. Desperate and rapidly running out of soldiers, the battalion wrote a message and attached it to Jeremy, sending him into the air and watching him sail above the trees. And just when they thought he was clear, some f***ing sweat on the German side nailed him. The battalion watched in horror as their last hope spiraled out of the sky. The bullet tore straight through Jeremy's center of mass, destroying one eye, punching a hole through his chest, and blowing off one of his legs. And this giga chad of an animal tanked it.
Do you have any ibuprofen? I got a headache.
The Marines watched in awe as this mangled pigeon picked itself out of the mud and managed to fly clear of German fire. Jeremy made it the whole way back to base, delivering the message and saving a total of 194 soldiers. Not only did he get the job done, but he f***ing lived. He was granted one of the highest military honors the French army could provide and sent into retirement with his trainer, and when he eventually did pass several years later, he was preserved and placed in the Smithsonian, where you can go see him today. There he is. Absolute legend. Scientists just de-extincted a 12,000-year-old dog. Well, kinda. You see, a bioengineering company called Colossal has dedicated itself to doing what every single Jurassic Park film has told us is a bad idea. Bringing back extinct species. And recently, they made a breakthrough. They have managed to bring back the 12,000-year-old direwolf. You know those big-ass puppies from Game of Thrones that the Starks had? Yeah, those were actually a real-ass animal, alive during the late Ice Age. And the best way I can describe them to you is,
Basically a wolf on steroids.
yeah, buddy! These things were bigger, faster, and stronger, estimated to have the highest bite force out of any canine. And in a move that I'm sure has no implications, they have managed to bring these bad boys back to life.
These two little guys are now 6 months old and have been living on a private plot of land with 24/7 veterinary care.
However, they've only just been shown off to the public, with the company going so far as to get a photo op with George R.R. Martin holding one of these adorable little killing machines, showing that man will literally interact with an extinct species before he finishes that last f***ing book.
There is, however, one small problem. This isn't technically a direwolf.
You see, by merit of them being extinct,
Short of specking into necromancy, you can't exactly bring them back. Which is where this guy comes in.
you see, the grey wolf shares 99.5% of its genetic code with the direwolf.
So, using CRISPR gene editing, they basically toss the grey wolf back into the spore creator, then using the code found in direwolf fossils as a build guide, juiced the out of it, boosting the size slider and putting some extra points into strength, as well as adjusting its head shape and teeth. All in all, they made a total of 20 edits to 14 genes, producing the closest thing we can get to a direwolf short of time travel. Which is cool as f***. I give it 5 years before a man-made horror beyond comprehension breaks out of that f***ing lab and we are all playing Resident Evil. This bear was actually a soldier. But how? You see, it was 1942, and the 22nd Polish Artillery Company were passing through the mountains of Iran, on their way to the front lines to fight the Nazis. While passing through a town on their way, they were stopped by a young Iranian shepherd, looking to trade with them for rations and a Swiss Army knife. When the Poles asked what he had to offer in return, the young shepherd produced a burlap sack containing an orphaned Syrian brown bear cub. You see, this bear's mother was shot by hunters, which is how he ended up in a low-tech Pokeball being offered as a trade deal. The Polish looked at the bear and, clearly seeing the potential for insane dad lore, said,
"Damn good deal."
And in the most worthwhile trade deal in history, parted ways with their supplies in exchange for a f***ing Pokemon, adopting him into their ranks and naming him Wojtek. And the 22nd immediately set about raising this little man as a proper bear and soldier.
Maggots!
As a baby, they would feed him condensed milk out of an empty vodka bottle, as well as feeding him on the cartoon bear diet consisting of fruit, honey, and marmalade. They also appointed a soldier as his caretaker, who wasted no time in showing Wojtek how to fit in with the rest of the army, teaching Yogi's little cousin to wave, salute, and even march. While not undergoing rigorous military training, Wojtek would hang out with the soldiers. He drank coffee with them in the morning, trained with them in the day, and when they all got shit-faced in the evening, he would f***ing wrestle with them. Do you know how much a brown bear has to love you to wrestle you? On top of double rations, they would also feed Wojtek treats in the form of beer and cigarettes. They let the bear have smoko. Eventually, Army High Command heard about this and were having absolutely none of it. You see, pets were not allowed in the army, which meant Wojtek had to go. Or did he? Because the 22nd Artillery Company officially enlisted him.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
Wojtek was given a serial number and granted the rank of private, so when confronted about the very conspicuous bear in their ranks, they simply went, "That's not a bear, that's Private Wojtek." And Wojtek took his new role very seriously, as during the Battle of Monte Cassino in 1944, Wojtek began using his bulk to to transport artillery shells and ammo to soldiers engaged in combat. They had a fucking resupply bear. For his bravery, he was promoted to the rank of corporal, and the 22nd changed their insignia to a bear carrying an artillery shell. This absolute unit smoked, drank, and dropped artillery on the Nazis. Based. Crocodiles are just dinosaurs that forgot to go extinct. I am dead serious, and I cannot think of a croc species to better make my point than the saltwater crocodile, a species native to the land down under, and shocking absolutely no one, yes, it can and will eat you. You see, keeping on theme with the whole forgetting to go extinct thing, the Salties stat spread just feels like something that should have been patched out with the rest of Jurassic Park, starting with their ridiculous size. You see, Salties are the largest reptile on the planet, coming in at a total of 6 meters long with a maximum weight of 1,100 kilos, which makes this murder lizard genuinely longer than my car. And the up part is that despite being longer than my ute, they are for some reason absolute masters of stealth. You see, crocs are ambush predators, which is a scientific way of saying they are dirty campers. You see, they've got 2 raised eyes that sit on the top of their heads, which means they can submerge their Ford Falcon-sized frame basically entirely under the water without sacrificing the ability to spot whatever they are looking to turn into a Happy Meal. And from your perspective as the Happy Meal, they are really difficult to see, which makes it very easy to walk just a little too close and, get bitten in half by that hydraulic press that they call a mouth.
That's why I love Nestle Crunch.
That's right, just like any good camper, these scaly arseholes are packing a one-shot in the form of one of the highest bite forces of any animal on the planet, having been recorded at putting out a maximum of 3,700 psi of force through their jaws. To put that into context, your skull will crack at 1,100 psi, so a croc would pop your head like a watermelon. And if you don't immediately get folded by the first bite, those jaws will latch onto you as the croc begins a death roll, spitting its ton of body weight like a washing machine until whatever part of you it has decided to eat snaps off and is added to its protein goals. But the best thing about the crocodile is their build is so fucking good. They have genuinely been around with very little evolutionary change for 65 million years. Which means I grew up watching Steve Irwin wrestle dinosaurs for fun. Rest in peace, you absolute f***ing legend. Koalas are really dumb. In fact, Australia's fuzzy icon is probably the dumbest thing on the planet. And that stupidity starts with their diet, because of all the things they could have chosen to eat, they chose to eat nothing but straight up poison. You see, koalas feed exclusively on eucalyptus leaves, which, shocking no one, are highly toxic, because they are full to the brim with eucalypt oil, which is so fucking poisonous that as little as 3.75 mil is enough to land you in the afterlife, with the Reaper asking you why the fuck you felt the need to eat a leaf.
Why?
Oh, it's also highly flammable and burns like napalm, because Australia. Now, despite nature putting up this giant do not eat sign, that did not stop the koala, because he can't fucking read. This suboptimal bulking diet not only gives the koala fuck all in the way of nutrition, but also requires their body to rest to filter out the toxins so they don't fucking cark it. Meaning they need to spend upwards of 18 hours a day sleeping in order to just digest their fucking food. These dumbasses spend most of their life in a food coma. That is, however, if they even get to the food to begin with, because they are so mind-numbingly brain dead that they will not recognize a eucalyptus leaf as food unless it is on the branch. I could give this dumbass a lifetime supply of food, and if it wasn't on a stick, he would starve to death. It should come as no surprise to you at this point that the koala has such an esky temperature IQ that they literally have a smooth brain. The thoughts slide right off of this dumb cunt. I love him. Australia has just found zombified bugs. That's right, we are closer to the Walking Dead Down Under than you think. You see, just recently, a scientist by the name of Dr. Francois Broussard made a trek out to the remote savannah of the Northern Territory, with the goal of finding and cataloguing brand new species of insect unknown to science. I mean, me personally, I think we've found more than enough bugs, especially considering that half of them can send me directly into the f***ing soil. But what do I know, right? Anyway, on his trip to the middle of nowhere, he stumbled across a colony of spiny savanna ants, which is a pretty normal thing to find out there. However, getting closer, he noticed something a little off. You see, the main ant colony was fine, completely normal. However, the several disfigured and deformed ant corpses clamped onto shoots of grass surrounding the colony like a Bug's Life version of Vlad the Inhaler. Yeah, those were significantly less normal. Broussard, mildly unsettled by the ant gore on his timeline, took samples for inspection and upon getting a closer look, realised something both really cool and really spooky. The ants had been overtaken by fungus.
Big old red ones.
More accurately, a previously unknown strain of the cordyceps fungus, infamous around the globe for its ability to create zombie bugs. And the way it does it is unbelievably horrific. You see, it begins with a spore landing on an ant and producing a thin rope-like strand that penetrates and attaches to their exoskeleton. At which point, the ant gets a little timer on his hotbar, counting down to a family reunion with his ancestors. Once inside, the fungus begins to take control of the ant's body and brain function, completely changing their behavior, replacing their colony-focused mindset with one single goal: climb. Its fungus-riddled mind drags its rapidly deteriorating body to the closest high point, which is usually a plant, with its final act being to clamp its mandibles onto the stem in a death grip. Finally succumbing to the infection and being completely consumed, its corpse blossoming into a fully grown cordyceps fungus and raining down spores onto the rest of the colony to continue the cycle of infection. Now look, I know this fungus is found elsewhere in the world, but it's a new strain and it was found in Australia. With my luck, I'm going to be playing The Last of Us against couch-sized spiders within the fucking week. This wasp is basically a xenomorph. Introducing the tarantula hawk wasp, possibly one of the most nightmare-inducing insects on the planet. And the reason it's such a threat to your mental health is because its hunting and reproduction strategy is ripped straight from Ellen Ripley's autobiography. But before we get to the strats, you're gonna have to learn a little bit about it first. Native to Australia, because of course it fucking is, this fucker is the largest wasp on the planet, coming in at a massive 2.5 inches. Which, I mean, boys, we would all agree, well above average, right? Huge. And this is probably the most effective 2 inches has ever been because it has the second most painful sting of any insect on the planet, coming in just barely behind the bullet ant. Pack and a half-inch stinger with a potent venom that has been described as blinding, debilitating, and electric. Now, the size and poison aren't just for nothing, because as the name tarantula hawk wasp suggests, they are purpose-built, genetically perfect killing machines designed specifically to violate spiders, making Australia basically an all-you-can-eat buffet for them. But they don't just execute the spiders. No, that'd be too normal. Hawk wasps use spiders to reproduce in one of the most horrific ways possible. And that all starts with a female hawk wasp hunting down a tarantula. As the buff bulking spider takes a wrong turn down a dark alley, the hawk wasp, noticing the 8 sets of TNs on his feet, proceeds to fucking jump him, flying down from above to land a sting into the spider's abdomen, instantly and permanently paralyzing it. The Bug Harbour Butcher then proceeds to drag the still completely conscious and aware spider into an isolated kill room, which is where the fucked up part really begins. Because our wasp isn't hungry, it's pregnant, and proceeds to lay its egg on the paralysed spider's abdomen. After about 3 to 4 days, that egg hatches into a larvae. A very, very hungry larvae. Fortunately, there's a whole bunch of fresh fruit right here underneath them. That food being the still paralysed, still very conscious and aware spider. The larvae burrows into the spider's abdomen and gets to work converting it into a KFC family bucket, consuming it from the inside out, purposely avoiding vital organs to keep the food nice and fresh. After it's done consuming a living being, the larvae breaks forth from the demolished corpse like a fucking chestburster and fucks off to continue the generational arachnid violation. Anywho, good luck getting any sleep tonight. Who wins? 100 men or 1 gorilla? Well, to get your answer, we're going to have to look at our fighters for the most anticipated cage match of 2025. And in the red corner, standing at an impressive 6 feet tall and weighing a ridiculous 220 kilos, we have one singular silverback gorilla. Stepping into the ring to settle the score against humanity for what we did to Harambe, this fighter is bringing some impressive physical strength, capable of lifting up to 800 kilos of weight, meaning that if it gets its hands on you, a gorilla is more than capable of picking you up and doing you the same way that Hulk did Loki. Now, on top of being stronger than Eddie Hall, they also have an unreal reach advantage with a 2.6 meter wingspan, which is a fairly major problem because a right hook from a gorilla produces 2,700 pounds of force. To put that into perspective, the human skull shatters at 1,400. So if Winston hits you with a haymaker, your head is going to pop like a watermelon. And with the cage fight following the Mortal Kombat rule set, we can also factor in the gorilla's bite, because despite being a pretty gentle herbivore in the wild, they have one of the highest bite forces on the planet at 1,300 psi. That is 100 psi more than a polar bear. And now, with our fighters' statistics out of the way, let's get down to business. Can our gorilla win a fight against the 100 average men in the blue corner? Place your bets. Let's see who comes out on top. Yeah, look, I'm going to keep it real with you. Even with those stats, Winston here is getting bodied. I'm sorry, he's going back to the spawn room. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 directly to hanging out with Harambe in heaven. 100 people, it's just too fucking many. He's getting jumped. However, not to say he's not going to take a few with him. My guess is one guy runs up and gets swatted across the cage like a toddler, shatters his ribs against the bars. Second guy gets grabbed by the leg and given the Hulk treatment. About 6 other guys cop swings to the head and die instantly from broken necks. One dumbass is probably going to try to hit him off the top rope and get done the same way that Omni-Man did Nightwing. But at that point, the crowd probably jumps in and realizes that there are still about 90 of them and it's over. Not that the fight even needs to happen, but it wouldn't be the first time we lost a gorilla to human stupidity. A gorilla can't beat 100 men in a fight. He gets jumped. But that begs the question, which animal does win? And the answer, stepping into the ring at 5 meters long and weighing in at a genuinely frightening 4,500 kilos, I present to you the hippopotamus. Yeah, look, a hippo causing a 100 long line at the gates of heaven after a fight is honestly pretty plausible. You see, despite the fantastic PR work Moodang has done for the hippopotamus community, doesn't change the fact that Moto here is a sentient Ford F-150, the temperament of a fucking serial killer who can win this fight for one very specific reason. You can't fucking hurt it. Yeah! You say the hippopotamus is possibly the tankiest land animal on the fucking planet, packing an unbelievably thick 2-inch hide. Now look, we all know 2 inches is a lot, especially in the sheets, but in the streets of the African savannah, this makes them practically Don't believe me? Here is a hippopotamus walking away from 10 lions trying to convert it into a family meal. Notice how the hippopotamus does not give a single fuck
If Mufasa and his extended family can't hurt it, neither can you. However, don't let the fact that it's walking away fool you here. The hippopotamus is not a peaceful animal. They are, in fact, violent, psychopathic, 4.5-ton thundercats that can and will bite you in half. A hippo's jaw produces 2,000 psi of pure crushing force. So if he catches your ass, you are the watermelon.
And as if the hydraulic press wasn't bad enough, don't forget they've got two 20-inch fangs in that mouth that'll put a hole in you big enough to stick your f***ing arm through. But honestly, the bite doesn't even f***ing matter. It weighs 4.5 tons and can run at 30k an hour. Getting hit by a charging hippo is like getting hit by a f***ing bus. There is no way we are winning a fight against something that could probably take out 10 people just by rolling over. In summary, don't f*** with the hungry hippo. Komodo dragons are horror villains. I mean, seriously, this industrial-sized lizard is easily one of the
Biggest assholes in the animal kingdom when it comes to hunting methods, packing a PhD in suffering and a double degree in biological warfare purely because they cannot be expending effort to hunt. You see, Godzilla's little cousin here is the largest lizard in the world, weighing up to 166 kilos and being a full 3.13 meters in length, which means, for the short kings in my audience, if you're brave enough, bang a motor transport right there.
Now, being the reptile equivalent of a Cadillac Escalade means that the Komodo dragon needs to consume a lot of calories to keep that bulk going. However, rather than using that bulk to proactively chase down and body slam its prey, they can take down prey 3 times their size, because as if being a reptilian tank was not enough, they are also venomous. And this isn't just your run-of-the-mill snake venom that, gives you a nice quick 15-minute death. No. A Komodo hunt starts with it running up to its prey and giving it a nice big chomp on the leg, injecting it with hemorrhagic venom.
After biting, the Komodo dragon off and just sits there watching.
The confused and bewildered animal runs off into the forest, leaking blood, allowing that Komodo dragon to track it like a DoorDash order. A week goes by, and that bite wound isn't closing because hemorrhagic venom prevents blood clots. So, the animal is still slowly bleeding out, and the Komodo is still watching. More time passes. That bite wound gets infected because Komodos are carrion feeders, meaning that the inside of their mouth is full of enough rotting flesh and bacteria to give Asmongold a run for his money. The infection begins to drain the animal's strength, and the Komodo is still watching. Another week passes. The infection has spread, and the flesh has begun to rot. And you best believe that ass lizard is still there watching like he's waiting for his meal to heat up in the microwave. Once the bleeding, disease-ridden animal becomes too exhausted to move on its own and collapses, the Komodo strolls over and eats it alive, shredding it into chunks if it's larger, or if it's small enough, swallowing it whole as it screams on the way down. Even for me, man, that's fucked. This is the deadliest snake in the world. Introducing the inland taipan, and being the deadliest venom noodle in the world, I will give you exactly one guess as to where it's found. It's Australia, of course it's fucking Australia. Be so serious here. Where the else did you think you were going to find it? Canada? More specifically, as the name suggests, the taipan is found inland in the outback. Luckily, extremely far from civilization, because this homicidal hospital hose is the definition of size doesn't matter. Because despite having extremely small fangs for a venomous snake, coming in at only 6.2 millimeters, the taipan is here to show you that you absolutely fucking can feel less than an inch, because those fangs contain the statistically deadliest snake venom on the fucking planet. Yeah, taipan venom is a pina colada of pain, containing, but not limited to, hemotoxins to cause blood clots, myotoxins for paralysis and necrosis, nephrotoxins to shut down your kidneys, and 3 different kinds of neurotoxin. Needless to say, if it bites you, you will get a headache, vomit up the entire contents of your stomach, collapse to the ground in agonizing pain, and then your heart and lungs will stop, sending you to meet God in under 15 minutes. And that venom is so fucking potent that one bite contains enough toxin to do that to 100 people.
But the funniest part of this snake's venom is that in the wild,
They only hunt rats and fucking mice. The deadliest venom on the planet, and they are using it to pack up Remy the rat. It's like hunting a rabbit with a fucking AWP.
That's the cutest f***ing thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Counter-terrorists win.
This snake can take your arm off.
'Tis but a scratch.
Scratch? Your arm's off.
Introducing the fer-de-lance, a species of pit viper native to South America and Mexico, with this particular nope rope having quite possibly one of the nastiest fucking bites in the world. This is a fairly major problem, because this little has the temperament of an eshay at a train station, being incredibly aggressive and extremely territorial.
Both of you give me your wallets and your shoes, bar, otherwise I'll cave your heads in right here, right now, bar.
In fact, this toxic garden hose is such an aggressive little within its range, it makes up an average of 50% of all snake bites. However, despite the huge number of attacks, it's only fatal in 6% of bites. So why is it such a problem? Just because you live the bite doesn't mean you'll want to. You see, when a fer-de-lance bites you, this massive viper sinks its huge inch-long fangs into your skin and injects you with 2 teaspoons of venom. You will at this point notice a little status effect bar appear on the bottom of your screen. Don't worry about that. That's a mystery mouse tool that'll hurt us later. Upon being bitten, your blood pressure immediately crashes lower than the stock market, and you start to feel very ill. The bite wound feels like you've been shot in the leg, you start sweating like someone's looking through your browser history, and then you start puking your guts up. Shortly followed by your collapse into the ground in agony. Now, fer-de-lance venom is hemorrhagic, so while you're having a frat boy moment on the ground, the venom is breaking down the walls of your blood vessels, causing massive internal bleeding. At the same time, it's seeping into your bloodstream, causing it to thicken and start throwing clots. But hey, you're in luck. You were with a buddy when you got bitten. They rush you to the hospital, and because it's such a common snake bite, they have the anti-venom on hand and administer it immediately, counteracting the venom's effects. There is just one problem. The mystery mouse tool is still there, because anti-venom is not necromancy. So, all the dead tissue around the bite caused by the blood clots and internal bleeding, yeah, still very dead. In fact, it's so dead that it is rotting on your still alive body in a process called necrosis. I can't show you a photo of necrosis because it's genuinely disgusting, but to put it in a term you can understand, the snake applies scarlet rot. Now, so long as that rot's still attached to you, it's gonna spread. So, there's only one way to stop it. Cut it off. This adorable little octopus is also the world's deadliest. Introducing the blue-ringed octopus, a species of cephalopod native to Australia, and in a shock to precisely 0 people at this point, it's venomous. Because of course it's fucking venomous. Why wouldn't it be venomous? That'd make my life way too fucking easy. Now, to its credit, unlike most of the toxic bullshit in this hellscape I call home, they at least have the common decency to be coloured like a fucking neon sign. However, it immediately loses this credit by being the octopus equivalent of a fucking hobbit, coming in smaller than a 50-cent coin. And this is a problem, because it is the most venomous octopus in the world. That's right, this fluoro spaghetti ball is packed to the brim with neurotoxin, more specifically, tetrodotoxin. You know, the same shit that turns cooking a puff fish into a quick time event? Yeah, these little guys are packing it too. However, because it is Australian, the blue-ringed octopus is on violence timing and is the only animal in the world to use this shit as an offensive measure by way of a venomous bite. But what does the venom actually do? Well, imagine you're wading through the rock pools with the homies, and you accidentally disturb this little gentleman's residence. The blue ring, taking the American approach to home defense, suctions onto your leg and bites you. Best part, it's completely painless. So if you're distracted by how thick your mate's looking in those Speedos, you aren't going to feel shit. That is, until your face starts tingling like TV static. It's warm out here under the sun, but you weren't sweating like this 5 minutes ago, and now you got a headache. You start to feel sick, weak. You go to call out, but your voice comes out slurred like you just knocked back a bottle of vodka.
2 shots of vodka.
And then suddenly, your legs come out from under you, and you hit the beach. Fun fact about tetrodotoxin. It's a paralytic. Freezes up your muscles one by one, starting with your arms and legs, which is why you're kissing the sand. You know what else is a muscle? Your diaphragm, the muscle that controls your breathing. And yeah, turns those bad boys off too. And so, your chest stops rising and falling, and you suffocate to death right there on the beach.
Now, you may be wondering, how come no one called an ambulance? That's easy. They didn't have time to. You went up to meet your ancestors in under 20 minutes. God ordered your ass with same-day shipping, and this little fucker delivered. Employee of the month.
This is Australia's most common snake, and that's quite a problem, because it's also one of the world's deadliest. Introducing the eastern brown snake, native to quite literally every state in the land down under. And unluckily for us, this asshole has earned himself a silver medal in the Note Rope Olympics venom category, coming in second place for the most venomous snake in the world. It is worth noting that third and first place are unsurprisingly also both held by Australian snakes. Because God hates us. However, unlike first and third, the toxic middle child here is a far larger problem, because putting it lightly, he's a cunt. The eastern brown is one of the most territorial species of snake in the world, which is a scientific way of saying they operate on the US home defense philosophy. If you dare put a pinky toe onto this guy's property, he will bite your ass, injecting you with a hemotoxin that can send you to heaven via blood clot in under 30 minutes if left untreated. But hey, stay off his property and he'll leave you alone, right? Yeah, one problem. His property is your property.
Get the fuck out of my room and play Minecraft!
That's right, the eastern brown doesn't live out in the middle of nowhere like his slightly more deadly cousin. This fucker is so at home in the suburbs, he drives a fucking Prius. You can find this burnt piece of spaghetti literally anywhere. Go to put your shoes on, he's turned them into a 2-bedroom home. Hop in the car to go to work. Yeah, unfortunately, that's his car now. Get to work on the job site? What do you know? He f***ing works here too. Try to take a shower after a long day at work? F*** off, he's moisturising. You can't even take a shit in the comfort of your own home without running the risk of the dunny being occupied. In fact, these bastards are so omnipresent that out of the 200 species of snake in the country, this ginormous asshole makes up 60% of snake bites. What a cunt. This shrimp can cause explosions.
My main goal is to blow up.
Introducing the mantis shrimp, native to the West Indo-Pacific Ocean and possibly the coolest crustacean under the sea, because this fluorescent armored sausage is actually a voracious, bloodthirsty predator rocking enough surveillance equipment to scare the CIA with a weapon powerful enough to surpass Metal Gear. See, the mantis shrimp is a highly effective predator, and they find and track their prey with easily the most advanced set of eyes on the fucking planet. First off, each of these eye stalks can rotate independently like a periscope, giving them a full 360 degrees of vision. However, more importantly, they can see colours we can't. You see, the mantis shrimp's eyes contain a full 15 photoreceptor cones compared to our 3. Which is a fancy way of saying they can see in 16K HDR with ray tracing enabled at 500 render distance.
Oh my PC.
Now, not only is the visual clarity unmatched, they can also see into the infrared and ultraviolet light spectrums. And despite all of this, they still can't find who asked. What they can, however, find is their next meal. The mantis shrimp subsists on a diet of fish, worms, squidward, and, most importantly, Mr. Krabs. Now, crabs famously exist inside of a defensive shell. So, how does this polite little gentleman break into the shell? Simple. He throws hands. That's right, weighing in at only 90 grams and 38 centimeters in length, the mantis shrimp has a punch that produces 15,000 newtons of force. That is 176 newtons per gram. So if a human was capable of that same kind of force, a right hook from someone who weighs 80 kilo would be like getting hit in the face with 6 sticks of dynamite. Now, to produce that force, its claw needs to be moving at 83 kilometers an hour, which is so fast it creates a vacuum in the water called a cavitation bubble, which then immediately collapses at such a speed it creates a miniature explosion that flashbangs the target and reaches a temperature hotter than the surface of the sun. Mr. Krabs is getting f***ing disintegrated.
Money, money, money.
Most snails aren't scary, except for this one. This one's Australian. Introducing the cone snail, an aquatic mollusk native to the land down under. And as seems to be the requirement when sharing your postcode with a kangaroo, you guessed it, it can quite easily cause your neck snap to be in a coffin. And the way it can achieve it is this bad boy right here. You see, despite most snails having a reputation for being slow goobers that get folded by a salt shaker, the cone snail is a highly effective ambush predator, and you may be wondering, how the fuck does a creature that moves slower than the GTA 6 development cycle hunt anything? Well, that's simple. It has a grappling hook. That's right, Gary's murderous little cousin here is a roadhog, mate.
Hi there.
And he hunts by slowly but surely stalking up on his prey until he's just within range, and then BANG! The cone snail does a quarter circle input, spitting out a tooth harpoon at 90 kilometers an hour. This harpoon then nails its prey, allowing them to reel it in like he's playing Scorpion. And in case that wasn't bad enough, as seems to be a requirement for spawning on Australian servers, it's venomous. That harpoon also injects its prey with a highly potent neurotoxin that instantly paralyzes it. This means it cannot put up a fight, as it is sucked into the snail's ginormous maw like a nightmarish version of Kirby. And, just in case you thought for once you might be safe, cone snail venom is potent enough to kill 700 people with one sting. Oh yeah, and there's no anti-venom, because it's not enough that it can kill me. No, I have to die knowing there is zero counterplay. Who balanced this Dolphins get drunk. But why? Well, you see, the dolphin is by far and away the smartest animal in the ocean. In fact, they're actually the second smartest thing on the planet, just behind you and me. This means they are smart enough to understand that the ideal way to spend your night is more plastered than Chad and Max on your average Cold Ones episode. There is just one problem. Last I checked, there's no Bottle-O in Bikini Bottom. So how does a dolphin get fired for all? Simple. They abuse pufferfish. You see, due to the lack of underwater alcohol, dolphins need to find other ways to get their fix, which is where SpongeBob's driving instructor comes in. You see, pufferfish contain this really cool and totally not dangerous substance called tetrodotoxin. What is tetrodotoxin? You know, it's only one of the most potent natural neurotoxins on the fucking planet. This shit will freeze your heart and lungs in under an hour with a tiny dose. And it's the reason why cooking a pufferfish requires a dexterity check so you don't, hit the poison gland and get yourself deleted. Now, puffers carry this as a defense mechanism as poison accumulates in their organs and skin. Why is that important? Well, you see, I kinda lied. Dolphins don't get drunk. They get high on neurotoxin.
¿Quieres?
Pods of dolphins will bully pufferfish until they inflate, then partake in a literal puff-puff pass. By lightly squeezing the puffer in their mouth, they receive a small dose of neurotoxin, which has a narcotic effect, allowing Flipper here to trip balls before passing the unhappy basketball onto the next submarine stoner. Flipper and friends saw the deadliest neurotoxin on the planet and said, fuck it, let me try some of that. If you see this thing T-pose, run! Introducing the anteater, a goofy little creature native to Brazil, and to understand why the absolute stance on this bad boy is a threat to your health, you're gonna have to understand a little about his lifestyle first. Now listen, I know this may come as a shock to you, but the anteater eats ants. And weighing in at 40 kilos and 1.8 meters in length, he needs to consume upwards of 40,000 ants per day. Now, in order to help him hit his bulking goals, the anteater has a mystery mouse tool stored inside that XL sniffer. A 60 centimeter long tongue, designed to snake its way down an ant colony's tunnel network, smash into their living room, and abduct the entire cast of Bug's Life and convert them into a high-calorie meal. However, what that tongue do only goes so far, as an ant colony can extend up to 4 meters underground, and termites live in high-rises, which means our boy here is going to have to do a little excavation to get to the goods. But last I checked, an anteater can't go down to Bunnings and buy a shovel. So how does he dig? Oh, that's simple, with the combat knives he has for claws. Yeah, anteaters are permanently cosplaying Freddy Krueger with a set of 4-inch claws, which, proving the effectiveness of a few inches, can crack through f***ing concrete. Now, these work great for digging, but they are also more than capable of flatlining you. When threatened, the anteater will rear up into a defensive T-pose. This is your sign, if you are smart, to turn around and f*** all the way off. If, however, you were, say, some dumbass trophy hunter who really felt the need to try and stab an animal for no reason other than ego, the anteater will swipe at you with those claws, which are at the perfect height to nail your inner thigh, slip through your flesh like butter, and sever your femoral artery, causing you to bleed out in 2 minutes while the anteater watches you go meet your ancestors. Can you imagine having to explain to your ancestors who felled woolly mammoths you got your shit packed up by the most unserious creature on the planet hitting a T-pose? Australia's scariest spider is hiding a deep secret. But what is it? Well, introducing the Huntsman, native to the land down under, and the #1 cause of tourists absolutely shitting themselves on camera. And look, in defense of said tourists, I will be the first to admit, yeah, this looks scarier than a f***ing job application. Those gangly ass legs and the hair make him look like Slender Man's testicle.
Now, as if having a negative charisma stat wasn't bad enough, I regret to inform you that the huntsman spider grows up to 30 fucking centimeters in size, making it the largest spider on the planet by leg span and legally allowing Subway to market him as a foot long. Now, being the spider equivalent of a Ford F-150, you'd think he'd have the common decency to be slow, you know, tank build. Unfortunately, the huntsman is fucking turbocharged. Now, it's usually at this point in the video that I would inform you that he is also highly venomous, because it's Australia. However, that's his big secret. The huntsman is a big sweetheart. You see, despite looking like an SCP, huntsmen are incredibly timid, and on the rare occasion they do bite, their venom is harmless. In fact, seeing one of these bad boys in your house is a blessing in disguise, because if you see a huntsman in your home, I guarantee you won't see any annoying ass flies or mosquitoes, because he's eaten them. You see, he understands he's big enough that he should be paying rent, and so he contributes to the household in pest control. I personally have had one of these bad boys as an 8-legged roommate, and I can tell you, they're pretty good company. Ooh. Except for the part where they cause car crashes. Yeah, you see, huntsmen like to hide in tight spaces and cracks, and they do it by flattening out their body to fit into the gap. Now, in the house, that usually means you'll just find them behind a painting, but when you're flying down the highway at 110k an hour and decide to flip down the sun visor because God is trying to flashbang you, yeah, they like to sleep in there and you've just dropped one into your lap. Now, whatever you do, don't panic or you're gonna crash the... This isn't a spider. It's a snake. Introducing the Iranian spider-tailed horned viper, as the name suggests, native to Iran, and you are all probably wondering why the f*** this snake has decided to attach a cosplay of the average Australian resident to his tail. The answer is food. You see, every known snake species is a predator. Some eat Bambi, others eat Remy, and the spider tail, not unlike myself, absolutely fucking loves KFC. However, birds famously tend to fly, and last I checked, nope, ropes don't have wings. So, how does this viper get his zinger box? The answer is, again, food. You see, birds eat insects, and the spider tail knows this. So, rather than trying to chase his prey down, this lazy fucker has evolved the evolutionary equivalent of DoorDash. You see, when a viper feels like a meal, it'll start the hunt by finding a nice rocky outcrop to curl up on like a couch. And due to the camouflage on his scales, this snake becomes practically invisible. Once he's nice and cozy, he begins to slowly wiggle his tail back and forth in front of his face, perfectly mimicking the motion of an insect. Think of this as him placing his Uber Eats order. Meanwhile, up in the air, our undercooked chicken tender is flying around when, holy shit, a free meal! What a delectable bug, just sitting there on that rock. And so, Tweety Birdie swoops down to grab himself an insect Happy Meal. And just as he's about to reach his meal, this spider can remove your limbs. But how? Introducing the brown recluse, native to the United States of America, and a prime example of don't judge a book by its cover. Because despite only coming in at a huge 2 centimeters in length and rocking the spider equivalent of default character customization, this little f***er is a level 500 rot build that gives Melania a run for her money. You see, a bite from a recluse starts in the most American way possible, with you accidentally stepping foot onto his private property, causing him to exercise his Second Amendment rights. But considering a spider can't really hold a gun, he's gonna settle on biting your ass. Now, that initial bite's pretty painless. You smack him away, all's well. There is just one small problem. Congratulations, you are now the proud owner of necrotic venom coursing through your veins, which at first does nothing. You walk back to your house, the bite starts to sting a little more. You feel sick. The wound swells, and the blood vessels around the bite burst, turning it a deep red.
Over the next few days, that colour shifts from red to purple to black, as the venom literally destroys and kills the surrounding tissue in a process called necrosis. This causes the skin to literally rot and fall off of your body. And if you don't catch it in time, that rot's gonna spread. If you're lucky, it'll only make you violently ill and leave permanent scarring. If you're unlucky, it just keeps spreading and venom starts to destroy your blood cells and shut your organs down. Now, there's kind of only one solution to that, but you weren't using that arm anyway, right? Australia has a straight up Pokemon. Introducing the brush-tailed possum, more specifically, the golden brush-tailed possum. Native to the land down under and one of the rare examples of an Australian animal that isn't expressly designed to DoorDash you straight to heaven. You see, the brush-tail is one of a grand total of 23 species of Australian possum, which, despite the name, share absolutely no relation to the red-blooded American opossum. These adorable little marsupials come in all shapes and sizes, from the ringtail possum to the sugar glider, and to our protagonist here, the golden brushtail, which is really just a common brushtail possum with a rare genetic mutation called leucism that causes them to lose the pigment in their skin. So basically, it's a fucking shiny Pokemon. Coming in at around 4.5 kilos and 40 centimeters in length, these tree-dwelling marsupials are nocturnal and primarily herbivores, mainly consisting on a diet of leaves and fruit. And for added cute points, as marsupials, yes, they carry around their babies in a little pouch like their roided out cousin the kangaroo. However, come on, the thing is, from Australia, you didn't really think these bad boys would be squeaky clean, did ya? You see, they aren't entirely herbivores. Sure, they love a good salad. They will also quite happily raid a bird's nest and turn Tweety's kids into a 3-egg omelette. Roadkill? Sounds like a fine steak dinner to me.
And just because it's not a venomous predator doesn't mean it can't take your fucking finger off. And the cherry on top, Aussie Pikachu here doesn't go Pika Pika. No, you see, Down Under doesn't have Pokemon trainers, because when you step into the tall grass out here, you hear this absolute fucking demon.
Australia doesn't just have snakes and spiders, it has a tiger. Well, kinda. Introducing the thylacine, better known as the Tassie tiger. As the name suggests, native to my home state of Tasmania, this tiny little island off Australia's south coast. No, that is not New Zealand. They have hobbits, not tigers. Well, tiger isn't entirely correct. You see, the thylacine isn't a cat on steroids. You see, this bad boy is the largest carnivorous marsupial on the planet. Despite the kangaroo coming in at 7 foot tall and throwing kicks like Chun-Li, they are herbivores, and everything else with a pouch that eats meat is about the size of a chihuahua, making this 1.3 meter, 20 kilo kangaroo dog with a tiger persona the only marsupial apex predator. See, these things were ambush hunters, using stealth and speed to silently take down their prey like they're playing Assassin's Creed. On top of being a fully qualified Spec Ops agent, these things had a mouth on them to rival Kirby. Capable of opening their jaw a full 80 fucking degrees, which is absolutely terrifying and really cool. There's just one small problem. You may have picked up on me talking mostly in the past tense, and that all of this footage is in black and white. That's because we don't have a tiger. We had one. Unfortunately, the thylacine was driven to extinction in the late 1980s. By what exactly? The British. You see, when the Brits, did their thing and decided Tasmania was their house now, actually, they brought with them livestock, namely sheep and cattle, which was a fucking blessing to the Tassie tiger, which rapidly added these walking meatballs with the survival instincts of a wet sock to their meal plans.
It's free real estate.
The colonists did not take kindly to the thylacine taking their livestock without a license in it, so they placed bounties on their heads. Never mind that these things never attacked humans and very rarely took their livestock. No, they were an inconvenience. And so, they were hunted down. One by one for 70 fucking years. Until September 7th, 1936, when the last thylacine, Benjamin, died cold and alone in a cage at the Hobart Zoo. Usually I'd end these with a joke, but the fact that we wiped his entire bloodline and turned him into a fucking rug isn't that funny. Australia just found a new record-breaking insect.
But before I show him to you, how the fuck do we keep finding new bugs?
You see, Australia is home to an estimated 200,000 species of insect, which is pretty damn impressive, especially when you consider the only place you're going to find more bugs than that is by counting the fucking roach population in Asmongold's walls. Now, the scary part of this is that out of that 200k, we've only actually identified 62,000. Meaning that we have no idea what nearly 3/4 of the bugs in the country actually fucking do.
You like jazz?
And so it should come as no surprise that while exploring Australia's dense rainforests, two scientists discovered a new record holder for the largest insect in the land down under, and it's a fucking stick bug. Introducing Acrophila alta, and coming in at a full 40 centimeters and 44 grams in weight. I don't think that qualifies as a stick insect anymore. That's fucking Groot! Australia's very own Erd tree avatar was discovered in Queensland. Because of course it fucking was. And despite being enough inches in length to make any man jealous, it's actually completely harmless. However, given how many oversized bugs we already have, if we find any more, I think they're gonna send the fucking helldivers. This is the world's biggest spider. But why the fuck is it that big? Introducing Theraphosa blondie, a tarantula surprisingly not native to Australia for once. Found on the other tyrannid hive continent, South America. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Yeah, this thing is fucking huge. Coming in at a frightening 175 grams in weight and 12 inches in leg span.
Damn, boy, he's thick!
And those legs are not the only place it's packing inches, because Shelob's cousin here is packing fangs that measure a huge inch in length. For scale, that is like a 6-foot human packing canines the length of a fucking ruler. But the important question, why the fuck is it so big? And the answer is that I have withheld information from you. You see, I introduced this girl by a Latin name. She's much better known as the Goliath bird-eater tarantula. That's right, this EDF-sized spider, not unlike me, would fucking kill for some KFC. Literally. These bile titans will quite happily hunt birds, remy, frogs, and even
lizard.
And they do all of this without a fucking web. Yeah, Goliaths are a pure melee build, hunting by prowling the jungle floor, sensing for movement with incredibly sensitive hairs on their legs. These hairs pick up vibrations in the air, which tell them when something is close. And once their spidey sense tells them that Remy's in range, they fucking jump him, biting him with those daggers they call fangs and injecting him with fucking neurotoxin. Can I go 1 week without covering neurotoxin? Of course this thing has it too. You know, I give up. I give up. They then drag their prey back to their burrow and spit up acidic digestive juices in order to suck their prey up through a fucking straw. This spider hunts with jump scares. But how? Introducing the trapdoor spider, a family of arachnid containing hundreds of species found in every continent on the globe. Meaning, yes, for once, this bad boy could be in your backyard and you'd never know.
Hello.
Now, trapdoor spiders are particularly interesting compared to other spiders due to their hunting method. You see, normal spiders tend to spend several hours spinning up some elaborate art piece for a fly to clothesline itself on. And tarantulas,
And tarantulas just jump shit. But trapdoor spiders, yeah, they hunt with a door.
Very early on in life, trapdoor spiders dig themselves a hole. This silk-lined burrow will then serve as its home for basically its entire 20-year lifespan. Hell, they basically never leave the thing, like some neckbeard living in his mum's basement. But they've still got to eat, and since DoorDash does not deliver to spiders, this burrow doubles as their method for catching food. You see, they use their silk to craft a trapdoor over the burrow entrance. Then, using their fantastic arts and craft skills, they just bolt a bunch of random shit to their front door so it blends in perfectly with the floor. After finishing their construction project, they will spin up a bunch of basically invisible strands of web on the floor in the surrounding area that act as tripwires, feeding information back to their neckbeard nest whenever something steps on it. And when some unfortunate insect steps a little too close...
Money! Money! Money!
This bird is a vampire. Introducing the vampire groundfinch, native to the Galapagos Islands, and a great example of the horrifying affronts to the universe that evolution can produce when it decides to do a little trolling. Now you see, at first glance, this is the most boring vampire you can possibly imagine, coming in at a measly 12 centimeters and a mere 20 grams in weight.
Ooh, that's kind of small.
Rocking a feather pattern I can best describe as a Minecraft dirt block, and as it turns out, the bastards that wrote Twilight lied to me because it doesn't even fucking sparkle.
This is the skin of the killer, Bill.
So if it's missing fangs, angst, a cape, and the funny accent,
You must bounce on it.
how does it qualify as a vampire? Simple. Drinks a shitload of blood. You see, most birds eat seeds and insects, and while the vampire finch can eat those too, there is a problem. They live on an island, and that island is very small. In fact, they're only found on 2 of the Galapagos Islands, and small islands means a far smaller amount of that food to go around. To the point where these finches can't rely on it as their sole source. Which for a bird usually isn't a problem, because, you know, they don't need a plane ticket to just f*** off and fly somewhere. However, as the name suggests, the vampire ground finch can't fly for shit. So, how do they get their food? They suck it out of someone that can. This, don't laugh, is the Nazca booby. Hey, stop giggling back there. Another species of bird native to the islands. They are very strong flyers that feed on fish. They also nest on the islands, which is where our feathery Nosferatu comes to play. You see, when the boobies, stop giggling, come to roost, the vampire finch will sneak over and hop onto their back. Then, using their razor-sharp beak, they will poke a very small, borderline painless hole into one of the bird's flight feathers. Once the blood is flowing freely, the vampire finch gorge themselves on it. See, as it turns out, blood is macro-friendly. And considering these things are living creatures, they just make more blood. In essence, giving the vampire finch an infinite food source. In fact, they can get so much blood from these birds, it is not uncommon to see multiple finches sucking from the same booby. I'm sorry, I can't say that shit without cracking up. A lot of people are scared of snakes, but have you ever wondered what snakes are scared of? The answer is this fucking bird. Introducing the secretary bird, native to the continent of Africa, and a prime example that being a hater pays off. Coming in at 1.3 meters tall and 4.27 kilos in weight, this lanky turkey has been purpose-built, nay, expertly fucking engineered by the gods themselves with the sole purpose of violating the ever-loving out of any garden hose that so much as looks at it the wrong way. You see, these bad boys are birds of prey, but unlike their cousins in the same category, they are primarily terrestrial, which means they spend most of their time on the ground. This is because their preference for diet is sentient slithering sausages. However, with this thing being endemic to Africa, their preferred meal also just happens to include some of the deadliest predators on the fucking planet. Does this stop the secretary bird? No, mate. Despite having no natural venom resistance, these absolute fucking gigachads will eat cobras, boomslangs, and black mambas without breaking a sweat. But how do they hunt these things without getting bitten? Simple. They just kick the fuck out of them. You see, those long-ass legs aren't just for show, as a secretary bird is capable of accurately curb-stomping a snake's head into the ground with a force equal to 5 times their fucking body weight. So when a secretary bird fancies a bite to eat, they start out by stomping the ground around dense vegetation. This causes snakes in the area to poke their heads out of their houses to see what the f is going on. The snake then looks up in horror as the secretary bird locks onto him, sprints over at Mach 9, and then... This bird is a serial killer.
Jesus Christ, you're the Bay Harbor Butcher.
I really hate that name.
Introducing the Shrike, a group of feathery friends found all over the world, including the land down under. Now, at first glance, you may be thinking to yourself, how could this sweet little guy be a vicious killer? I mean, he's so tiny. They only grow up to around 30 centimeters and cap their weight out at 90 grams. And on top of being about as threatening as a fucking teddy bear, look at their claws. A shrike trying to end anything with its talons is like trying to stab a hippopotamus to death with a fucking pool noodle. Listen to the thing, it sings like it's on American Idol. It's a songbird, a branch geek. It never heard a fly. But I'm fucking onto you, Tweety.
You give me the fucking creeps, you know that, Dexter?
You may have everyone else fooled, but I know exactly what you are, because shrikes actually have another name. They're called fucking butcher birds. Yeah, that's right, the Dexter jokes actually had a fucking point. Now, you see, when the Bay Harbor butcher bird wants to hunt, they first start by selecting a target.
Tonight's the night.
Now, unlike Dexter, their code tells them they can eat whatever the fuck they want. Insects, mice, fuck me, even lizard. And once they pick their meal, they wait for the right moment and swoop on it. Now, while those claws might be fucking useless, they do have a signature weapon. That tiny hook on the end of their beak. And once they land on their victim, they slide that hook into its neck, perfectly slotting between their vertebrae and severing their fucking spinal cord. But converting their prey into a vegetable isn't enough. No. These sick fucks keep trophies. Once they have paralyzed their prey and shattered its spine, they will fly its corpse back to their larder, which is either a thorn bush or a fucking barbed wire fence. And once they get home, they fucking impale them. They will then leave that corpse there for days, occasionally biting chunks out of it, eating it like leftovers from the fucking fridge. Dexter collected blood slides. These fuckers create kebabs. This crab is a boxer.
What's your name?
Agree!
That's right, stepping into the ring at 0.15 grams and a huge 2.5 centimeters in length, it's the boxer crab! You see, while most crabs use their pinchers to feed and defend themselves, the boxer crab has instead elected to spec into CQC and throw fucking hands. And despite their completely average and not at all small size, this fucker fights in the heavyweight division, able to punch out hundreds of times its size. But how does nature's Little Mac win the fights? Well, that's pretty simple. He fucking cheats. You see, those little pom-poms aren't a fashion choice. Those are both sea anemones that the boxer crab holds in its claws to use as basically f***ing brass knuckles. Now, they get these anemones by finding other boxer crabs who have them, jumping them, and then claiming them like they are a f***ing WWE title belt. Now, if you weren't aware, anemones are venomous plant-like animals that, in order not to get eaten, sting the shit out of anything that touches them. Boxer crabs are immune to that sting, but you bet your ass that everything that tries to eat the boxer crab isn't. So, the crab and the anemone enter into a symbiotic relationship, essentially becoming an aquatic venom, with the anemone getting some of the crab's food, and the crab gaining venomous brass knuckles. So, whenever a predator gets in the ring with Crab Tyson here, he'll wait for it to get just within striking range, and then...
Mr. Squidward, I should kick your f***ing ass!
Scientists just discovered a new fish. Looks f***ing ridiculous. This is the bumpy snailfish, a freshly discovered species found off the coast of California. What makes this absolute specimen stick out is that it's a deep sea fish found at a depth of 3 kilometers. And I am here to tell you exactly why. Because once God finished building this thing, he took a step back, looked at it, realized exactly how fucking chopped it was, and punted that thing into the depths of the ocean where no one would ever see it again.
Be free!
However, thanks to the hubris of mankind, it is here before us today to take the piss out of.
Look at the top of his head.
I mean, fucking look at it. It is a profoundly unserious creature. I do not think a single fucking thought has ever spawned behind those eyes. Not to mention the fit on it. It looks like an aquatic, uncooked turkey with a f***ing smiley face drawn on it. Coming in at a solid 3 inches in length, Bumpy here is not the only species of snailfish. There's others that look like this. However, unlike his cousins, God deemed it so that this poor little f***er would be built like a shaved testicle. The scientific term for a pair of these should be a sack. However, despite the fact that he looks like a sperm cell with a receding hairline, I love him. He's so cute. Look at that smile. That shit reminds me of Sackboy on the PS3. I know when they got his ass on camera, he looked at it and went,
You know, when you showed me up, you put some of the stuffing in the wrong places, so I'm a little f***ed up. But will you take care of me forever and ever?
I don't think you understand just how old sharks are.
We got a boomer!
See, I'm not just talking individual sharks. Hammerheads, Bruce from Nemo, Jeff. Yeah! Your average shark lives anywhere between 20 to 80 years. Nothing all that special. I'm talking sharks as a species. Because as a concept, sharks are f***ing one-tricks. They have mained this class through every single balance adjustment Earth has thrown at them. From climate change, to the Ice Age, to that time God decided to punt a rock at Barney the dinosaur. Yeah, when it comes to prehistoric shark species, most people think of the megalodon. That big boy the size of a kaiju that was swimming around in the ocean around 26 million years ago. Which might sound like a long time, but as far as sharks go, this thing's a f***ing zoomer. Go back around 250 million years to the early Triassic, before the literal dinosaurs, and you'll find Helicorpion, a shark with a f***ing buzzsaw for a mouth. 250 not far back enough for you? Go back around 300 million years, and you will find Adestus, the f***ing pog shark. And if that is still not far back enough, you can go all the way back, right to the beginning, to the first recognizable shark, Doliotis problematicus, at 410 million years old. Sharks have existed for 4 times longer than Saturn has had rings. The first tree only sprouted out of the ground 385 million years ago. That means that for 25 million years, Groot's great-great-grandfather was sat in God's drafts while this f***er chased Nemo. This is the world's oldest shark.
We got a boomer!
But how old actually is it? This absolute fossil over here is the Greenland shark. And this may come as a shock to you, but the Greenland shark is found in f***ing Greenland, man. And with Grandpa Shark here coming in at a f***ing kaiju-sized 6 meters in length and a literal f***ing ton in weight, this senior citizen probably worked with Godzilla back in his f***ing day. But how senior is senior? Well, you might be expecting him to say something along the lines of, 100 years, maybe 150 years, right? Try higher. No, not 200. Close, but not 300 either.
Chocolate.
No, the Greenland shark can live up to 500 fucking years. I don't think you understand how old that is. So, to put it in perspective, this is Bob. Bob has just turned 500. Here is a list of things this has lived through. All 8 of King Henry's divorces. The invention of chocolate.
I remember when they first invented chocolate.
Shakespeare's entire lifespan. The Boston Tea Party. The signing of the Declaration of Independence and the founding of the United States. The colonization of Australia. The Industrial f***ing Revolution. The invention of the light bulb and adoption of electricity. The Titanic becoming a submarine. World War I. The Great Depression. World War II. The Vietnam War. The f***ing moon landing and the invention of the internet. The first episode of SpongeBob. Schlatt's crimes in 99. 2001. The invasion of Iraq. The global financial crisis. The death of Harambe. Australia catching fire. The virus. And it's still with us today to watch f***ing TikTok. Okay, so, as the Aussie animal guy, I feel like I might owe you an explanation for this one. That is a normal fucking Roo. No, he is not Roosus Christ, he's not the second coming, and he's not gonna turn your water into wine. Alright, he might turn it into VB if you ask nice.
Get that up here.
But if that's the case, how the f*** is he stealing the Son of God's passive? Well, the answer is fucking sand.
I don't like sand.
Yeah, you see, what's far more likely than a Roo being enchanted with water walking is that he's actually running on a sandbar. That is basically just a fancy description for ocean currents piling up a shitload of sand into one place, creating an offshore segment of the water that's not much deeper than a fucking kid's pool. Now, Roos know about sandbars, and they actually very frequently use them as a shortcut to get from A to B to find more food. So, while it looks like Skippy here is stealing Jesus' entire fucking flow, he's actually on a Macca's mish.
Let me get a...
There is a competition in America where they vote on the fattest bear. That's right, lads. F*** the Super Bowl. I'm about to introduce you to the most important American sporting event of the year, Fat Bear Week. Hosted by the Katmai National Park and Preserve in Alaska every year from the 23rd to the 30th of September, the public watches as Winnie and Paddington fight it out to see who is the most absolute of units. And this year's highest calorie Kumamane has been crowned. But before that, how the f*** does Fat Bear Week work? Simple. See, the event is held in the lead up to hibernation season, while all of these bears are at the peak of their bulk. Now, while it's running, the park allows the public to view live stream footage from all of their trail cams. These cameras capture all the park's brown bears, allowing us to observe Freddy's fat ass cousins like we just got a job at f***ing Fazbear Entertainment.
Each bear caught on camera is assigned a number and occasionally a name. We, the people, then vote on the contestants day by day, pitting them against one another in a fucking single elimination tournament bracket, determining with our votes which bear most closely resembles a pyro commission until one bear is crowned the victor. Now, you may think this is just some silly little event, but no, over the years, there has been fucking voter fraud, a manhunt for a missing hiker, and one year, the trail cams caught one contestant beating to death and eating another bear. But now, to answer the question you've all been waiting for, the winner of the 2025 Fat Bear Week is 32 Chunk, winning with a broken jaw. They named that f***er after the render distance you need to load in his entire body at once. Australia just found a new shark. And of course, being from the land down under, it's fucking weird. Introducing the brand new Western Australian lantern shark. As the name suggests, discovered by a team of scientists off the coast of Western Australia. Now, as with the overwhelming majority of weird shit in the ocean, the Ozempic shark here is found in the deep sea, sharing a postcode with the anglerfish, that one xenomorph shark, and now, despite the word shark making most people think of something a little closer in size to, I don't know, Bruce, Slenderman's fish sonar over here only grows up to 30 centimeters. This little guy shares a weight class with a fucking foot long. But I mean, honestly, I still personally think 30 centimeters is way too big. He could be just as good as the other sharks if he was, you know, let's just say 3 inches. However, other than being built like a fishy USB cable and owning a property in rock bottom, what makes him so weird? Simple. He fucking glows.
Throwing flashbang.
But fucking why? Well, you see, these bad boys are found in the twilight zone of the ocean, around 1.2 kilometers below the surface. A place so fucking far down, it sees less sunlight than the inside of a gacha addict's room. And so, lantern sharks evolved bioluminescence on their gills and fins in order to fucking communicate with one another. The glow is the evolutionary equivalent of a fucking indicator, showing that a literal abyss shark is more intelligent than your average BMW driver. Aussie farmers thought they were being attacked by aliens. But what was actually causing it is so much funnier. This is a wallaby, the kangaroo's vertically challenged little cousin. Now, to get a little more specific, this is a Bennett's wallaby, native to my home state of Tasmania. And that location is very important to the story. Tassie is home to a lot of things. Beautiful views, a seal with a felony record, and the nut. However, one thing they tend to leave off the tourism brochures is drugs. Tasmania is the world's largest exporter of legal opium, the main ingredient in opioid painkillers like morphine, with this one tiny island producing 50% of global supply. Now, opium comes from poppy milk, and to get poppy milk, you need to milk poppies. And to produce that 50% of global supply, Tasmanian farmers grow huge fields of these things across the north of the state. However, because throwing these flowers into a crafting table gives you f***ing narcotics, these fields are legally required to be under extremely tight security. Which is why these same poppy farmers became extremely confused when f***ing crop circles showed up in the plant equivalent of a fucking Town Hall 9 Clash of Clans base. They were understandably absolutely fucking bewildered by this, and some people even thought it was aliens. So to figure out whether or not it was a Halo Elite drawing this shit, they set up some cameras. And what they saw was this little shit. Breaking into the field, eating the milk-filled buds, getting absolutely f***eyed, and then hopping in circles until he passed the f*** out. They thought the f***ing Covenant were invading, and it was a drink-driving wallaby. This shrimp has a gun. No, this isn't a Fortnite skin. This is a real f***ing animal, and it's called the pistol shrimp. Now, unsurprisingly, being named after a firearm, of course it's f***ing native to the United States of America. Where the f*** else do you think you were going to find it? However, they can actually be found expressing their Second Amendment rights over the majority of the globe too. Now, coming in at a huge 2 inches, it is not the size of his body that makes him special, but the caliber of the big iron on his hip. Or should I say big claw? You see, that oversized right pincher isn't just because he forgot to, switch hands while doing homework. No, mate, that claw is basically fucking Mega Man's arm cannon. But last I checked, they can't call in an ammo resupply under the sea. So how does the claw become a gun? The answer is bubble. You see, these bad boys hunt smaller shrimp, and they start that hunt by jumping off the f***ing battle bus and looking for prey. Once they get within effective range, they will literally cock their claw like the hammer on a revolver. Weapon ready, they line up the shot, take aim, and
counter-terrorists win.
They snap their claws together so f***ing fast, it causes an underwater vacuum, creating an explosive cavitation bubble hotter than the surface of the sun. This bubble is then launched at the enemy at over 100k an hour. The bubble then connects with the smaller shrimp and f***ing flashbangs it. This either kills it outright or stuns it long enough to be consumed. Poor little fucker got quick-scoped by Faye Shrimp. I want you to imagine you're cave diving. You turn a corner and see a spider web the size of the fucking wall. I regret to inform you that no, this is not fake. This is an actual photo from the inside of a cave on the Greek-Albanian border, where scientists have discovered the world's largest spider web, located in a portion of the cave crammed to the brim with sulfur that has quite literally never seen the light of God. This wall of white sticky stuff spans 1,100 square fucking feet. That is the size of a 2-bedroom fucking house. However, finding the average Australian home on the wall of a cave at Y11 brings up a far scarier question. What the fuck built it? Well, to the relief of many, no, we did not discover a giant spider lair. Nor is this the result of a single spider with creative mode and world edit. No, it's far fucking worse. Because this web is the arachnid equivalent of getting the boys on for a 2-week Minecraft phase. Because this web is a collaborative effort. It was built by 111,000 fucking spiders. That isn't a tree. It's a fucking bird. Introducing the tawny frogmouth, a species of bird found in the land down under, and Australia's very own avian equivalent of a maxed out Skyrim stealth build. Now you may be thinking to yourself, well, it can't be that stealthy. I can see it. Yeah, you can. You can see that one. Did you see the one right fucking next to it? Now, the important question is, why the fuck do these things have predator camo? Well, there's 2 reasons. First of all being, It's f***ing Australia. You see, these bad boys are primarily nocturnal, staying on the move during the night and dive bombing unaware insects to meet their bulking goals. However, that means that during the day, they sleep. And in a country where at any point you can be bitten, mauled, stung, or f***ing drop-kicked to death, laying down in the wrong spot can turn a short nap into the forever sleep. So, in order to prevent themselves from becoming an item on a snake's KFC order, these tactical chickens evolved a ghillie suit to basically allow them to f***ing disappear. Being practically invisible allows them to unlock their second passive, f***ing DoorDash. You see, these guys are so f***ing good at cosplaying a stick that not only do predators mistake them for Groot, but so does their prey. And so, whenever they take a nap, they just leave their mouths open a little bit. And whenever some poor ant just tries to walk his way to work, he instead DoorDashes himself directly into its fucking mouth. Australia just found a new insect.
Who's that Pokemon?
And in a certified Australia moment, it is unironically called the fucking Lucifer bee. Because of course we have the Satan bee. The snakes and the spiders and the fucking dinosaurs weren't enough. No. Now I gotta dodge a rejected doom enemy on my walk to work. Discovered in the closest climate to hell on Earth, Western Australia, these bad boys were named after the Lord of Hell for two reasons. The first of which being the giant fucking demon horns bolted to their heads. Now, those horns aren't just there to look scary. They're actually a defensive mechanism to protect the demon bees from bigger predators. However, only the ladies of the species stay strapped, as the horns are only found on females. Meaning a more accurate name for these absolute girl bosses is the Karlak bee. But a pair of spirit Halloween horns can't be the only reason they're named after the devil, right? I mean, there's gotta be f***ing something else. Like, do they spit fire? Maybe they've got a pitchfork for a stinger that injects you with f***ing acid venom? The answer to that is, no. It's a normal f***ing honeybee. The actual reason is that lead researcher, Dr. Kit Prendergast, was watching the f***ing Netflix show.
Biggest cock I've ever seen.
And this isn't even the first time she's done something like this. She named another species after her pet dog. F***ing based. Australia has dancing spiders. Allow me to introduce you to the land down under's most fabulous arachnid, the peacock spider. Now, this 8-legged pride flag is not remotely dangerous to humans. It's got f***all venom, tiny fangs, and as far as size goes, they're the spider equivalent of a f***ing gnome. What makes these little guys interesting is their love lives. You see, not unlike normal peacocks, it's only the males of the species that are running the RGB gamer lights. But why are they built like a Razer laptop? Well, because spiders can't just post up with a dead fly on Tinder and start swiping. No, the boys here have to attract a lady the old-fashioned way. Shake an ass. You see, in order to find a mate, peacock spiders head out to the club and find a lady across the dance floor. They then lock eyes with her, and as the song changes, they raise that coloured dump truck to the sky, start playing Dance Dance f***ing Revolution, baby. Now, as he dances, the female spider watches very closely, not only paying attention to the movements of the dance, but also the f***ing vibrations. And if our protagonist here can nail Osu Valentine's Edition just right, the female spider will slowly approach, lean in for a kiss, and... But, here's the thing. If he f***ed up the dance, he fails the charisma check. And if he f***s the charisma check, he's no longer boyfriend material. He's a fucking Happy Meal.
And all the time that you're wasting all of our bridges,
This turtle breathes through its butt. No, this is not a joke. This is a Fitzroy River turtle, native to the land down under, and as with most of the shit found in God's drafts folder, its existence begs a single question. Fucking why? Well, these little guys are freshwater bottom feeders, snatching and consuming the children of aquatic insects and munching down on the occasional ribbonweed salad. And as with most river turtle species, this requires them to spend most of their time in the water. Now, rather than doing what most turtles do and developing an insane lung capacity, the Fitzroy decided to evolve a set of gills alongside their lungs to allow them to stay underwater for 3 weeks at a time.
Hello, how are you?
3 weeks later.
I am under the water.
However, when placing the gills, God was absolutely fucking plastered. And instead of placing them on the neck like a normal animal, he slipped on a beer can and not only placed them on its ass, but inside of it. And you know what makes this even worse? Turtles do not have a single purpose hole like you or me. They have a cloaca, which is the fucking Swiss Army knife of holes. This means that Fitzroy River turtles shit, piss, breathe, and fucking mate out of the same hole. This tree grows grenades. You see, this is a sandbox tree, native to South America, and before we even address the frag grenades growing in the branches, we are going to start at the bottom of the tree, because I feel it's important that you understand that this tree was designed from the roots up by God himself to fucking hurt you. Growing up to a staggering 60 meters in height. The first phase of the fucking boss fight that is this tree is the giant, inch-long, rock-solid bark combat knives covering the thing from top to bottom. Now, if Groot's cousin being armed like the average British resident was not enough to stop you from getting too close, touching the tree will immediately make you realise it is not ribbed for your pleasure. It's for your fucking poison. Yep, as if the spikes weren't enough, the sap of the sandbox tree is very fucking toxic, causing severe itching and rashes on contact, and if you some fucking how get it into your eye, it will temporarily blind you. That all pales in comparison to what you came here for. The reason, the other name for this thing, is the fucking dynamite tree. The fruit. You see, these fruits aren't meant to be eaten. In fact, they're poisonous. Put it in your mouth, you'll cramp up, vomit, and shit yourself. No, they are made to spread the seeds of the sandbox tree in the most American way humanly possible. Explosions. The fruits are basically seed-filled time bombs. As once mature, they begin to dry out. As they dry, they shrink, and they slowly begin bending against their stems. The tension gets too high, snaps the fibers holding it against the stem, and the whole thing explodes like a fucking frag grenade, sending seeds flying up to 240 kilometers an hour. This is the world's deadliest tree. Introducing the manchineel tree, found in the United States of America and the Caribbean, and you may be wondering, what makes it so deadly? And the answer is that when growing this thing, God used the same design philosophy that Miyazaki uses when he puts a swamp in a FromSoft game. Because even thinking about the fucking thing will poison you.
Leave me alone!
The entire tree, from root to stem, contains more toxicity than a league lobby, and that starts with the sap. This thick,
sticky, white substance is not only found inside the tree, but thinly coats the entire thing, not unlike the sock under your bed. This is a problem because it contains 3 separate toxins that will seep into your system if you so much as f***ing brush the thing, causing severe itching, swelling, and chemical burns.
I think it's just because of allergies.
Getting toxic shock from just touching the thing isn't enough for you? Well, you'll be happy to know that eating the fruit on it can just kill you. Yeah, what the sap does to your skin, the fruit essentially does to your throat and internal organs. So just a few bites of Satan's apple here will cause you to start choking before you experience the worst stomach pain of your entire life, collapse to the ground, puke your guts up, and then start shitting them out. But the f***ed up part is even if you don't eat the fruit or touch the tree, it can still poison you. How? Well, let's say you're walking outside and suddenly it starts pissing down with rain. Thinking quickly, you run for cover under the branches of a tree, a manchineel tree. The rain hits the leaves and the branches of the tree, mixes with the toxic sap, and then falls directly onto your fucking head. Spiders are scary, but hey, at least they can't get you in the water, right? Yeah, that nightmare is a fishing spider. Native to the land down under, because of course it fucking is. And you may be wondering why the fuck this thing is pulling a Jesus. Well, you see, fishing spiders have no webs. Which means they can't just wait for a fly to clothesline itself when they're hungry. No, when they want to feed, they gotta hop in the ute, drive down to the waterfront, and get ready to do some serious fishing. Now, last I checked, spiders can't just go down to BCF and buy a fishing rod. No, these little guys need to get hands-on. Or, should I say feet? Because they start their hunt by resting their forelegs on the water's surface. These legs are covered in incredibly sensitive hairs, which detect tiny little ripples and vibrations from the water, basically giving them their prey's fucking IP address. Not only finding their location, but also doxing what fucking species it is. Uncooked fish finger located, all that's left to do is, go out and grab him. But, how? Well, no, he's not wearing 4 pairs of Frostwalker boots. Those long legs are also coated in hydrophobic hair. This allows them to put their weight on the water without breaking the surface tension. This means that when they see their prey, they can simply Jesus towards it at Mach 5 and fucking grab it. Biting it with venomous fangs that inject, you guessed it,
Say the line, Bart.
neurotoxin. Yeah! And once it's paralyzed, they drag it back to the shore and have a feed. Wait, this one's too small, we gotta throw him back.
Be free!
This plant explodes. But why? Well, you see, this is a squirting cucumber. Stop giggling. I see you laughing. Stop it. This is serious. These things are found worldwide, and to understand where this thing got its name, you need to understand how most plants spread their seeds. You see, most of the time, plants store their seeds in their fruit. Birds then swoop down, grab their food at the drive-thru, eat it, and fuck off. They then digest the flesh of the fruit, but shit out the seeds. Seeds hit the ground, get fertilized, and the cycle begins anew. But the squirter is poisonous. Every single part of the plant is toxic, so if Tweety here eats it, he's gonna become a KFC family bucket. So if that's the case, how does it spread its seed? Well, same way you do. You see, the cuke stores its seeds in the fruits as well, but the fruits are made up of very soft cells, and as they grow, they slowly fill with moisture. This moisture causes them to swell and inflate, increasing pressure on the inside of the fruit. That pressure builds. The fruit stretches. until finally all that pressure is too much for the stem to bear, and it pops out like the pin in a grenade. And with that opening, all those seeds and all that pressure finally has somewhere to go. So, in order to spread its seed far and wide, it busts. This is one of the oldest creatures on the planet.
Who's that Pokemon?
We got a boomer!
Introducing the horseshoe crab. Found under the sea in the Atlantic, Indian and Pacific Oceans, and when I said old, I didn't mean individually. These little guys disconnect from the server at around age 40. And as far as their actual lives go, they're kind of boring. They're bottom feeders with zero offensive capability, and the only reason they have a tail is that without it, they would die if you flipped them onto their backs. No, when I say old, I mean as a species, because these things are walking fossils that have been running the exact same basic ass build, completely unchanged, for millions of years. How many millions? Well, here is a list of events that this little guy's family tree has lived through. The fall of Rome. The evolution of humankind.
Go back, I want to be monkey!
The Ice Age. God tossing a rock at the big-ass lizards.
Lizard.
Hell, this little fucker watched the first fish crawl onto land and was underwater when the first tree spawned. But I think the best way I can put this into perspective is that not unlike the way the Earth orbits the Sun orbits the Milky Way. Now, this process takes around 225 million years to complete. The horseshoe crab has done it twice! This frog deliberately breaks its own bones. But why? Well, you see, this is a hairy frog, found on the west coast of Africa, and the reason it hits a brutality on itself, ironically enough, is self-defense. You see, these guys are small, coming in at an incredibly respectable 3 to 5 inches, and tipping the scales at only 150 grams, which is a problem, because they also inhabit the ecological equivalent of a fucking FromSoft game. Africa is one of the only places in the world that gives Australia a run for its money, with Mr. Frog here having to avoid birds, snakes, and rats on his walk to work. Now, in order to avoid this scenario, most frogs either run a high-level stealth build, or dress up like a fucking highlighter and cover themselves in everyone's favourite liquid. But the hairy frog has read one too many X-Men comics, because this thing actually has another name. The fucking Wolverine frog. Because these little guys have claws, but not traditional claws like a cat's, which are made of keratin and freely extend and retract without an issue. No, instead, the finger bones on a hairy frog's hind legs are held in place by a small bone at the tip of their fingers. And when threatened, they snap the longer bone off the tip and through their fucking skin. And then, new weapon acquired, they employ the London self-defense strategy. The Kraken is a real animal, just not the one you think it is.
Who's that Pokemon?
You see, when people hear tales of the Kraken, they assume that a bunch of sailors in the oldie times got absolutely shit-faced and ran into a giant squid. And to be fair, that's not a terrible assumption. Giant squid are f***ing kaiju-sized, coming in at 12 meters in length and 900 kilos in weight. So the assumption that they saw that shit and rightly assumed sea monster isn't too far-fetched. However, there is a rather large hole in that giant squid theory. They don't live anywhere near the surface. They live down. Way down. Owning real estate at a depth of 1 1,000 meters below sea level in the twilight zone. So if these sailors didn't see Squidward's roided out brother, how the f*** do you explain the books of corroborating tales of long, tentacle-like appendages sticking out of the sea? Well, the answer is whales. But, where is the tentacle on a whale? Well, you see, during breeding season, blue whales reproduce by, conducting a locomotive on female whales. And in order to keep this train running on the tracks, male whales must wait their turn. And while waiting in the lobby, in order to stay prepared, the males tend to, raise their gentleman's sausage out of the water and wave it around in the air. And the special sausage on a blue whale is around 3 meters long and 14 inches thick. So, sailors who thought they were seeing a mythical monster from the depths were, more than likely just seeing a pot of whales hitting weapon inspect on their schmeat.
Captain!
Yeah?
This fish will choke you. Just not the way you think. You see, this is a hagfish found worldwide under the sea, and this thing has one of the most fucking disgusting defense mechanisms on the planet. You see, when I say choke, you probably think I mean they loop that pool noodle shaped body around your neck and squeeze. You are wrong. No, these guys are piss-weak scavengers that average out to about the size of a Subway footlong, and despite having a f***ing face hugger for a mouth, their main defense mechanism is, busting. You see, as you can probably tell by looking at them, these bad boys are slimy. Really slimy. And, when threatened, they use it as a f***ing weapon. Whenever something tries to eat them, they kick the slime production into overdrive, secreting a protein that instantly converts the surrounding ocean water into thick, sticky sludge in half a second. And I mean, a load like that in half a second, incredibly impressive. Nothing to be embarrassed about at all. This slime then seeps into and clogs the gills of their predators, suffocating them to death. Then, having literally slimed their ops, they whip out an Uno reverse card and fucking eat them. Scientists have created a new fish. And the best part is that it was a fucking accident. You see, this is a sturtlefish, and it is found absolutely fucking nowhere in the wild. No, this genetic accident is a nature mod produced exclusively in a single facility in Szarvas, Hungary. You see, the sturtlefish is a cross between the Russian sturgeon and the American paddlefish. And in the wild, the only way that hookup's happening is Discord, because they live on opposite sides of the fucking planet.
Hello, princess.
But this ain't the wild. This is Hungary's Fishing and Aquaculture Institute, Haki, where a group of researchers is trying to figure out how the fuck to repopulate the critically endangered Russian sturgeon, using a neat trick called gynogenesis. But, what the fuck is that? Well, you see, usually, when sturgeons reproduce, the females lay a shitload of eggs in the water, which are then, fertilized by the males. This fertilization requires two of the same species to tango, with 50% of the offspring DNA being contributed from the egg and 50% from the source. In gynogenesis, 100% of the offspring's DNA is contributed by the mother. Now, because sturgeons can't do this naturally, the researchers hatched a plan. They would take sperm from the far less endangered American paddlefish and microwave that shit with UV radiation, destroying the DNA it carries, but still allowing it to stimulate the egg into growing without the father's DNA, and thus, gynogenesis. But, there's a problem. The paddlefish was just a little too genetically similar to the sturgeon,
And they did not leave the swimmers in the microwave long enough. So instead of a bunch of perfect little sturgeon babies, we got the sturtlefish, which is a literal genetic dead end. It is incapable of reproducing. I feel bad for it. It was an accident and it gets no bitches. Abysmal existence, RNG.
Let's go gambling! Oh, dang it. People hate this groundhog.
But why?
I'm like, what is it me for?
Well, because this is no ordinary hog. This distinguished gentleman is Punxsutawney Phil, a resident of the US of A, specifically the town of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, where he has a very important job. He predicts the weather. And he does it through the Groundhog Day ceremony. But what the f*** is that? Well, basically, every year on the 2nd of February, crowds gather at the Gobbler's Knob. Stop laughing. This is a very serious ceremony. Quit it. And then, at dawn, the unbelievably dripped out inner circle of the Groundhog Club retrieve the allegedly 140-year-old Phil from his knob. Phil then selects a scroll from the tip of the knob based on whether or not he saw his shadow when being yanked from his home. And if he did see his shadow, winter will last for 6 more weeks. And this year, Phil has predicted 6 more weeks of Mayolt. And for some reason, this year, that prediction has royally pissed off many people online. See, I just think he's doing his fucking job. But the tweet that shared his prediction has some of the most angry yet fucking hilarious responses. And I made this video to read you the best of them. Turn him into a steak. That groundhog is going in the microwave. If I saw Punxsutawney Phil, I would punt him like a football. And last but not least, POV, you are the deep fryer at Raising Cane's. Octopuses bleed blue. But why?
Why are you blue?
Well, actually, it's not just octopuses. If you lined up Gary, Larry the Lobster, and Mr. Krabs, you will find that all of them bleed Gatorade. Now, this isn't just for aesthetic purposes. Running what appears to be blended up Smurf through their veins actually serves an important purpose. And to learn what that is, we gotta talk about your blood. You see, your circulatory system is based on iron. Iron is used to produce hemoglobin, which in turn carry oxygen around the body, allowing for you to, exist. And when iron is exposed to oxygen, it oxidizes and goes red, which is why when you get shanked, sprays you out tomato sauce. Now here is the fun part. The cast of SpongeBob don't run on iron. Their circulatory system is based on copper. So rather than hemoglobin, the copper creates hemomyosin to cart the oxygen around. And as anyone who's ever seen the Statue of Liberty can attest, when copper oxidizes, it turns blue. Now, the reason for them evolving copper is pretty simple. Our blood fucking sucks. See, the inferior hemoglobin is far less efficient at binding oxygen than the Chad hemocyanin. And considering all of these bad boys live or travel through incredibly cold, low oxygen environments, they need to get the most out of every breath they take. They basically switched evolution teams from red to blue because red blood has a skill issue. This pig went on an alcoholic rampage. No, that's not clickbait. This really happened, and as with all good drunken rampages, our story takes place in fucking Australia. More specifically, it starts in the middle of fucking nowhere, WA, where a couple blokes were out camping.
And as any good Australian would, these lads brought with them the camping essentials. Let's see here, we've got swags, box of snags from Woolies, and most important of all, beers. And those beers are why, at 4 in the fucking morning, these lads were suddenly ripped from sleep by a really weird sound. A low, snuffling and grunting noise, followed by the sound of bending aluminium. So, to ensure they weren't being attacked by, pick a native Australian animal, they got out of their tents, turned on a torch, and shined a light at it. And what they found was a wild pig shotgunning all of their piss. And I don't mean 1 or 2 beers. No. Daddy Pig was on a serious bender because he managed to down 18 fucking cans. Now, fun fact about beers. Once you hit the 18 mark, all of your stats are redistributed into strength and you gain the frenzy debuff. This is why, after being spotted by the torch, the pig fucking sonicked away from the now empty 6-packs, knocked over the garbage cans, paused, turned around and ate the garbage, then continued sprinting to a nearby paddock where it started headbutting a fucking cow. This really pissed off the cow, who turned around to face the pig. And it was at this point, looking up at the very pissed off Big Mac, the pig realised he genuinely wasn't built for this shit. Yeah, this little piggy turned around and fucking booked it out of the paddock, being closely pursued by the ghost of burgers past. The cow chased him around a car for 10 minutes before giving up, leaving the still drunk pig to stumble away and pass out in a fucking bush. This monkey is getting bullied. But why?
Why you bully me?
Well, you see, this is Punch, a Japanese macaque whose mother, immediately after giving birth to him, went out for milk and cigarettes. So already not off to a great start in life, and things would not be getting easier for Punch. You see, he was born in captivity at Japan's Ichikawa Zoo, which meant that he was then introduced to the rest of the macaque population alone. No parents, no friends, nothing. But surely, it's all up from here. He might be alone now, but at least he can start making friends with his fellow primates, right? Yeah, unfortunately, macaques treat the new kid in school about as well as Family Guy treats Meg. These guys have a very complex social hierarchy, and not unlike high school, it is enforced with bullying. So far, Punch has been smacked, dragged, and bitten, basically to tell him that he can't sit with them at their lunch table. And the bullying he cops is made worse by the fact there's no one to protect him because his mum, you know. And then after jumping him, they won't even let him get a fucking hug. Now, faced with such adversity, a lesser monkey would crumble and try to leave. But making the story infinitely sadder, Punch runs off to the closest thing to family he has. A plush orangutan gifted to him by the zookeepers to try and replace his mum. When stressed, he hugs it and tries to get it to hug him back. No, I'm not fucking crying. Someone's cutting onions in here.
She's actually pretty good at that.
However, despite the absolutely horrendous character development he's gone through, Punch has finally managed to start making some friends. Which is good, because for a monkey, he got off light. Had he been born a chimp, when they don't like one another, they rip each other's testicles off with their fucking teeth. BMW, yet the car company, has an emu farm. But what the fuck do the Germans want with our steroid chickens? Well, you see, a lot of complex parts have to come together to build a car. I mean, your transmission, your engine, I would say indicators, but we are talking about BMW here. However, the first thing you'll notice about a car is usually the simplest. The paint. Yeah, it doesn't really matter how nice your car is. If the paint's peeling off like a banana, people are going to assume it's a fucking shitbox. And that's why car companies put a lot of time and research into making sure the paint stays on your car while you slide it sideways into a tree. One of the best ways to do that is fucking clean it. See, anything that isn't wiped off the car gets stuck under the paint when it's applied, which fucks up adhesion by moving around. And even the tiniest particles of dust can fuck it all up. So, the Germans pondered, what is the best way to make sure every panel is spotless? And the answer they landed on is a giant fuck-off duster made of Australia's favourite feathered war criminals. And it wasn't just BMW that found this out, but Audi as well. Now, Audi gets their Dino Turkey feathers from the source, shipping directly from the land down under.
¿Quieres?
Now, BMW used to do the same thing, till someone at head office had a thought. Hang on, the feathers. If we ship over 4 emus and place them in a grid, infinite feather source. And so they airdropped Australia's big birds onto a farm in Bavaria, where a small sleeper cell of Australia's most wanted resides to this day. The funny part of this to me is that BMW went so far as shipping kaiju turkeys to make the paint on their cars look good. Just for some TikToker to buy it for clout, wrap it bright purple, and then crash it into a fucking wall. This is the world's most useless fish.
You stupid.
They're not.
Yeah, mate, that aquatic pancake is a mola, found wasting its life in oceans around the world, and a contender for the most dog shit fish build in the 7 seas. You see, these things are huge, measuring at 4 meters from fin to fin, and absolutely atomizing the scales at 2,300 kilos, putting it firmly in the same weight class as a fucking F-150. There is, however, a problem with that size. That is all it's good at. It spent every available stat point on being a giant floating satellite dish at the cost of spending its life as a useless fucking punching bag. To start with, the thing can't even swim properly. Their fins, specifically their tail, is tiny compared to the rest of their body, which makes them so shit at maneuvering. The only thing they can fucking eat is jellyfish and plankton, because those don't dodge. Speaking of food, you may have noticed that in all of these photos, its mouth is open. That's because it doesn't fucking close. God has cursed the fucking thing to permanently pog. Oh, but evolution is not done fucking the sunfish yet. Because funnily enough, being the size of the average American meal, while having the defensive capabilities of a Tickle Me Elmo, makes these things perfect targets for predators. Most of the time, animals just take fucking bites out of them, realize they taste like shit, and then swim off, leaving a hole in their head, which somehow doesn't kill them.
Do you have any ibuprofen? I got a headache.
That disgusting flavour is probably due to the 50 fucking parasite species living on its body, but flavour doesn't matter to sea lions, who will rip their fucking fins off and play frisbee with them. And if you thought it couldn't get any worse, they will often swim to the surface to warm themselves up and let birds eat the parasites off of them, where they are promptly hit by a boat. Their only saving grace is that they don't process pain because their brain is the size of a testicle. They are blissfully unaware that they spend their entire fucking life getting jumped.
Like that! Like that!
This bird is attempting to reproduce with that man's head. But why? Well, this adorable little guy is the kakapo. And the answer to the question basically boils down to the fact it fucking sucks at being a bird.
I'm like, what is it me for?
To begin with, its wings are fucking useless. The kakapo is huge, weighing in at 4 kilos, which is 2.5 kilos heavier than any other bird in the parrot family, which is probably why the kakapo is literally the only parrot species on the fucking planet that can't fly. He is so rotund that he just hops along the ground. They also suck at reproducing. See, in order to attract a mate, male kakapo will dig a hole, plant themselves firmly in it, and then start spamming vine booms at the top of their lungs 8 hours a day for 3 months at a time. The problem is their call is very low pitched, which means that while females can feel it from miles off, they can't pinpoint where it's coming from, so they end up alone. When this happens, the defeated male f***s off and attempts to mate with a rock, or, as you saw at the beginning, a journalist's head.
You are being shagged by a rare parrot.
Now, by this point, you are probably asking yourself, how the fuck has it survived this long? And the unfortunate answer is that it really fucking hasn't. See, the reason this feathered squeaky toy has evolved the survival instincts of a crusty sock is because it is only found in New Zealand, a place that naturally has no predators. None of what I just said is a problem when you're basically playing on peaceful. Tragically, that little Union Jack in the corner of the New Zealand flag means it was colonised by the fucking British. So suddenly, there are cats, dogs, and early on, people trying to turn the poor thing into a KFC bucket, and its only defensive mechanism is standing still. Their population dropped as low as 49 birds, and they are still critically endangered to this day. Certified British Empire moment. This tiny bird killed a man. But how? Well, you see, this is an Australian magpie. And why, yes, it is found in Australia. How could you fucking tell? But despite sharing a postcode with all the other Dark Souls enemies down here, they're actually pretty chill little guys. They got no poison, they aren't hiding a mouthful of teeth, and considering they're the length of a ruler and weigh less than a kilo, they can't pick you up and fly off with you. On top of that, they're actually really intelligent and often will form bonds with people who feed them. Most of this, however, immediately gets thrown out the window during the magpie's nesting season, or as it is better known down under, fucking swooping season. See, because half of our wildlife would gladly turn magpies and their eggs into KFC, the second they build a nest, a switch flips in their brain and every single fibre of their being is devoted to aggressively defending the nest like they're a unit in a fucking tower defense game. Because if you step within around 50 meters of it, they will lock onto you and dive bomb you at Mach 5 and try to peck your eyes out over and over and over again until they run you off. And this behaviour is how in 2019, magpies caught a fucking manslaughter charge.
Guilty.
Yeah, one day a 76-year-old man was riding his bike through a park in Wollongong, a park that contained a magpie nest. The magpies took exception to this and started swooping him. And they swooped him so hard that he careened off course, crashed the bike, and fucking died. This spider
throws its webs. Yeah, that creepy thing is an ogre-faced spider. And as with most affronts to God, yes, you can find them...
Say the line, Bart.
...in Australia. Yeah! And the reason it's got web slingers is its unique method of hunting. You see, most web-spinning spiders use those webs to fucking camp, spinning it between a few branches and then falling asleep waiting for a fly to clothesline itself before casually wandering over to suck its guts out like a smoothie. By contrast, ogre faces basically pull fucking trick shots, because instead of shooting that sticky white stuff all over the walls, they shoot it on their hands. See, you may have noticed that this thing is built like an 8-legged Slender Man, and that is by design, because they start a hunt by spinning a web between their forelegs. Then, they will lower themselves from a nearby branch and just kinda hang upside down in the air doing their best stick cosplay. Then, when something makes the unfortunate mistake of getting too close, it will lunge downwards, spread its legs, wrap the bug up in a net, and then fucking yank it away into the air like it's hitting fucking Spider-Man pull-offs in Rivals.
Crack the whip.
And because this is an Australian animal, that insect burrito would not be complete without a healthy injection of venom. And then they fucking eat it. Think about how fucking scary that is from a human perspective. Walking down the street at night, some cunt hits you with a rope and you're just fucking gone. Wild sharks are taking drugs. Hey, recently, scientists in the Caribbean made quite possibly the most fucking terrifying discovery since the advent of the job application. You see, they were conducting a study on ocean pollution, and part of that study involved blood testing 28 sharks in the region. And when Shark RBT pulled 2 of Jaws' cousins over for a random test, they tested positive for cocaine. They also tested positive for caffeine and painkillers, which begs the question, how the fuck did a great white shark get great white blow? Well, no, they aren't doing a Narcos season in Bikini Bottom. No, sharks having the bloodstream of an Eshe in a nightclub is our fucking fault. You see, tourists and rich cunts absolutely love to swing their yachts into the Caribbean, throw parties, get shit-faced, and presumably fall into the water. And I don't know if you know this, but rich people do illegal shit, which is how some Wall Street banker decides he wants to partake in some nose beers, and in his excitement, knocks the rest of the devil's dandruff into the ocean. Jaws swims along, thinks it's food, and takes a bite. And thus, hey presto, Coke sharks.
First time trying a cigarette, let's chase the buzz. I'm fucking tweaking!
No, this is not a video of hell. This is completely unedited, no filters footage from Western Australia. And you may be wondering, how the fuck does it look like a Terraria blood moon? Well, the answer to that question is sand.
I don't like sand.
Here's a fun fact for you. Australia is the world's largest exporter of iron ore, and 96% of that shit is pulled out of the ground in Western Australia. And the reason we excavate whole chunks there is because the place is sitting on 55 billion, with a B, tons of ore. The whole fucking state is basically just a desert biome covered in iron farms. And that iron isn't just found at Y11. No, there is actual fucking rust in the dirt and sand, which tints the whole fucking desert red. And that red sand is why WA looks like fucking Caled. See, as if the animals trying to kill us wasn't enough, God has done a little trolling and spawned a tropical cyclone on WA's coastline. And the wind from that bad boy kicks all that red sand into the air, blocks out the sun, and turns whatever light creeps through blood f***ing red. Genuinely thought this was Armageddon, but it is just sand sending us to the tomato dimension. Australia doesn't have the Easter Bunny. We have this thing.
Who's that Pokemon?
You see, after the first Easter Bunny was clapped by a snake 5 minutes into his down under egg run,
that's the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
His replacement took one look at Australia, said, and I quote, "Fuck that," which is why we have the Easter Bilby. Yes, this cute little kangaroo rat is a real animal, and he is way better suited to the job than that fuck-ass rabbit. First off, Bilbies are marsupials, which means they've got a pouch for carrying around their kids like a kangaroo. But the mobile daycare also gives them extra inventory slots for Easter eggs, compared to the rabbit, who I can only assume is hiding the eggs up his fucking ass. They can also deliver your chocolate across the Australian desert without dying in the heat, because those big-ass Dumbo ears basically work as a car radiator, dissipating their body heat in order to cool them off in God's air fryer.
Goes to oh, I'm burning! I'm burning!
But most importantly, the Easter Bilby is doing his part to save his species. Here's a fun fact for you. In Australia, rabbits are cunts.
You can't just jump out here.
They are an invasive species, and they fuck up the environment by mowing down all the food meant for native animals. On top of this, they break into bilby burrows and steal them. That, coupled with being hunted by invasive foxes and feral cats, mean the greater bilby is critically endangered. The real reason the Easter Bilby exists is to raise awareness for this, with a chunk of the cash made from selling bilby chocolates being donated to save the species. Unlike that bunny who charges me $15 fucking for a rabbit and tells me to fuck myself.
Oh my god. I am never gonna financially recover from this.
So, in conclusion, fuck that greedy colonising rabbit, the bilby clears. This isn't a snake, it's a bug. This is the very creatively named snake-headed caterpillar, found wriggling around in South America, and the reason they're dressed up like the average Australian resident is to scare people. See, caterpillars exist for exactly one reason: to spin up a cocoon and Pokemon evolve into a moth or butterfly. Now, in order to achieve this, they need to be not fucking dead, which is a little difficult when everything under the sun is trying to eat them.
Mission failed.
Birds, wasps, spiders, frogs, you name it, they all look at a caterpillar as the world's freest meal. I mean, it's basically a sentient, slow-moving hot dog with zero escape strategy. So, how does the very hungry caterpillar avoid the very hungry everything else?
Hello.
Well, some choose camouflage, others become more toxic than a league lobby, but the snakehead chose cosplay. Well, if you want to get technical, the scientific term is mimicry. As we've established, caterpillars are weak, light work for their predators. You know what isn't light work? A fucking snake. Which is why when threatened, these little guys will force air and blood into their head, causing it to inflate. They then shake that shit in the air, perfectly mimicking a venomous snake. Whatever was about to eat them sees their free meal turn into fucking rattlesnake Jake, becomes shit scared, and runs the fuck away.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
You know, now that I'm thinking about it, its entire defense is just becoming a scary, wacky, waving tube man. This is the world's fastest chicken. Yeah, this is the Tasmanian native hen. Except no one fucking calls it that shit. We call it the turbo chook. This bad boy is from the land down under. More specifically, it's only found in my home state of Tasmania. And as you may have guessed by that nickname, Lightning McChicken here is built for exactly one purpose. Speed.
I am speed.
But before I address it violating the speed limit, I've got to address the fact that it's a fucking fraud. So despite that name, it is not remotely related to a chicken. It's actually from a family of waterfowl called rails. It's around 50 centimetres long, tips the scales at 1.5 kilos, and importantly, cannot fly for shit. Watch your jet! In fact, it is completely flightless. And that is a little bit of an issue because this is Australia, where at any given point, this mobile KFC bucket is a rock's throw from a fucking snake. However, Sonic the Hedgehog didn't trade in that pilot license for nothing. See, they still have wings. They just don't use them to fly. They use them as a spoiler, because when threatened, they don't fuck off into the clouds. No, Hen Racer here just drops gear into first, punches the throttle, and fucking tears off at 52 kilometers an hour. I don't think you understand how fucking insane it is for something the size of a chihuahua to break the speed limit in a school zone. So let me make a comparison to Australia's other flightless bird, the one we lost a war to. Emus are 2 meters tall, and when they run, they cover 3 meters per step. That is a total of 6 whole native hens per single emu footstep. So you would assume the emu gaps the fucking hen, right? Wrong. Ken Verstappen and the war turkey are the same speed. How the fuck? This is the world's most disgusting bee.
Brother, ugh.
Yeah, that is a vulture bee, found on the Tyrannid hive continent of South America, and you are probably wondering, what makes it so disgusting? And that's pretty easy to answer. It eats fucking rotten corpses. Well, at least that's one thing that makes them gross. Yeah, the Left 4 Dead zombie diet is actually just the tip of the iceberg on how fucking disgusting these things get. But before you learn the rest, I gotta teach you about bees.
You like jazz?
See, a normal beehive runs on 2 main resources, nectar and pollen. Nectar is used to create Winnie the Pooh's honey, and pollen is used as a source of protein. Now, the issue is vulture bees can collect nectar, but they are physically incapable of picking up pollen. So where do they get their protein? Well, basically, roadkill. Instead of flying around and looking for a lovely floral arrangement, vulture bees will surf the skies until they spot a rather delectable-looking maggot-ridden corpse, which they will then cave dive inside of through the fucking eye sockets. Oh yeah, I told you they got grosser, and this isn't even the worst bit. Because once they're inside, they treat your fucking corpse like the deli at the supermarket, rooting around for the cuts of meat that they're after. But for the same reason they can't carry pollen, they can't just take the fucking meat out in a shopping trolley. No, what they do is scarf down the stacks of rotten flesh like a Minecraft player who's run out of food, fly back home, walk through the front door, and vomit it into another bee's mouth. Okay, well, not straight into its mouth. They're not savages. It goes into a bowl first. And then another bee eats it. And mixes it with spit and nectar to turn it into a meat sludge that gets eaten by the other bees. Yeah, I hope you weren't planning on eating anything anytime soon.
Who wants chowder?
I can fix your fear of snakes with this ridiculous creature. No, that is not a snakeskin sock puppet. That is an actual, real animal on this planet, and it's called the Arabian sand boa. And you may be wondering, why does he look like that? Well, no. As much as it looks like it, God did not design this thing in the Spore Creature Creator after 10 fucking beers. No, it looks like a strand of spaghetti with googly eyes for camouflage. So, I'm going to give you exactly one guess as to where an animal called the Arabian sand boa is found. That's right, the deserts of the Arabian Peninsula. If you got that wrong, I don't know what to fucking tell you, man.
You stupid.
No, not.
And in order to survive in that air fryer, the sock here needs two things. Food, and not to be turned into food. Which is rather hard, considering this is not a fucking danger noodle, okay? This is a defenseless noodle.
Help me.
It is only 15 inches long, it has no venom, and the bite of an old lady without her fucking dentures in. So how does it survive? Simple. Digs a fucking hole like a Night 1 Minecraft player. See, they're nocturnal, so during the day, they bury themselves completely in the sand, which allows them to take a nice little nap without getting snatched up by a fucking bird. Then, once night falls, those fuck-ass eyeballs finally serve a purpose beyond looking ridiculous. And that purpose is to sit just above the sand like a submarine periscope and scan for food. They then just wait for a mouse or lizard to get close before this vicious creature pops out of the sand like the worms from June and eats it. I'm sorry, I find the idea of this stupid fucking snake killing anything so funny. Like, just imagine the last fucking thing you see before ascending to the pearly gates is fucking that.
Look at the top of his head.
Did you know that whales can explode? Yeah, these bad boys can turn themselves into an all-natural IED, but they can't explode on command like a creeper. No, in order to pull a Rexplode, it needs to be fucking dead first. In fact, it's got to die in a very specific way. See, usually, when a whale carks it, that fucker sinks like a stone and gets hoovered up by bottom feeders. But if it manages to wash up on shore, or it dies by beaching itself, there's nothing to eat it. No, what that house-sized corpse does do is sit there, frying in the fucking sun, starting to rot. Now, a fun fact about rotting corpses, they go through this cool process called putrefaction. Basically, all the bacteria in your gut start to break down your flesh, which produces a shitload of different gases. And if nothing punches a hole in the whale, that gas has nowhere to go. So the corpse begins to swell and inflate like a fucking balloon.
Oh, I didn't know I had that mod on.
And it will fill with gas until its body can't fucking take it anymore, at which point it basically becomes a fucking boomer from Left 4 Dead.
We got a boomer.
The force of the gas can cause the skin to split and then Free Willy explodes all over the fucking beach, but anyone touching it could cause it to explode as well. Which is why if you see a whale corpse on the beach, whatever you do, do not fucking touch it. Hey, I just told you, don't fucking touch it. This is the world's most poisonous bird, which is weird considering it does not naturally produce any toxins whatsoever. So how the fuck does that work? Well, this flying carrot is a hooded patooey, and it's basically nature's version of Kirby. But not because they eat a lot. No, this little guy was discovered in Papua New Guinea back in the late 1980s by a scientist named Jack Dumbarker. And while handling the patooey in the field for his research, he very scientifically discovered a super cool bird fact. Touching them made his skin tingle like TV static before it went numb and then started to fucking burn. Upon further research, he discovered that may possibly have been because the secret herbs and spices God used to coat this sentient KFC bucket from beak to talon was fucking batraka toxin. The same shit that coats poison dart frogs, otherwise known as one of the most potent neurotoxins on the entire fucking planet. Because of course it's fucking neurotoxin. I cannot go 5 minutes without it being fucking neurotoxin. But like I said, they don't naturally produce it. No, they eat it. See, these fuckers love to eat these things called merillid beetles. And those beetles evolved batraka toxin specifically to avoid being eaten. That sign, however, did not stop the patooey, because it can't fucking read. Also, they have poison immunity. So, they eat the bugs, absorb their poison build, and redistribute it to their feathers and skin. Now, any parasites that bite them fucking die, touching them hurts you, and anything dumb enough to eat this forbidden zinger box enters the forbidden sleep. I am reporting live from a dead whale. But why am I here? Well, the year is 1970 in the town of Florence, Oregon, where a 14-metre, 8-ton, dead sperm whale has spawned on the beach. And the reason that is a problem, beyond smelling like shit, is that when you leave a dead whale microwaving in the sun for too long, they have a chance to explode. So, this raised the problem. How the fuck do you get rid of an 8-ton dead body? Because that big bastard's not fitting in the boot. Well, at the time, the Florence Beach was the responsibility of the Roadworks Department. The Roadworks Department, however, had no fucking clue how to fix that, so they held a meeting to figure it out. What if we lift it up onto a truck? Our crane is rated for a ton, that thing weighs 8. You're like you trying to squat a fucking elephant, what else? What if we cut it up with chainsaws? What part of it explodes did you not understand? What if we blow it up?
Fuck, it's genius. I didn't know I'd think of that.
So, Roadworks called the Navy and asked if they were allowed to fucking atomize it. And this, being the USA, the Navy fucking approved it. Which is why I am now standing here with a giant crowd of spectators and a bloody news crew in front of a whale stuffed to the fucking blowhole with TNT. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Well, as it turns out, no one on the road crew had a fucking clue how much TNT to use.
We're not sure just exactly how much explosives it'll take.
So to make sure it got rid of the whale, they used 500 kilos. That's what could go wrong. The crowd looked up in horror as whale chunks were launched 250 meters into the air. Everyone was coated in a fine mist of rotting flesh as they ran for their lives to avoid being crushed by falling pieces of Mr. Krabs' daughter. And while no humans were squashed, one piece of whale crushed a man's fucking car. But the funniest part is even after enough TNT to level a house, they did it wrong so it didn't get rid of the whole whale. They still had to fucking bury it. A lot of people are scared of spiders. But did you know spiders are also scared of spiders? More specifically, this fucking demon. That is an assassin spider. And as with most things that make you physically recoil from the screen, yeah, it's found in fucking Australia.
¿Quieres?
Which makes a lot of sense when you learn that this ET-looking motherfucker was designed in a lab by God himself for one purpose: turning their extended family tree into a fucking McDonald's menu.
Let me get a...
These things eat exclusively other spiders. And the way they execute their cousins is by using their own tools against them. See, they start their hunts by finding a succulent arachnid meal hanging out in its web. The assassin walks over and starts playing that silk like it's fucking Guitar Hero. The victim, and yes, the spider in this situation is a fucking victim, feels those vibrations in its web and assumes the fly it door-dashed earlier has arrived, gets up off the couch, and goes to grab its food. However, when they reach the front door, and this fucking demon from the 7th circle kicks it down, they realise there is no DoorDash. They are the DoorDash. And before the victim can fucking blink, the assassin stabs it through the chest. Because apparently the circle of hell this thing crawled out of is fucking London. And once the victim is firmly impaled, it uses that long-ass neck and oversized jaws to lift it off the ground so it can't fight back while it is pumped full of venom. Once that happens, the assassin spider just fucking holds the victim there, stone cold staring at it as the life slowly fades from its eyes. Everyone fucking hates this guy for a really good reason. You see, this fuckwit is Igor Litvinchuk. And while on holiday in Hawaii, a local caught him in 4K throwing a fucking rock at the head of a Hawaiian monk seal called Lani.
What are you doing?
Now, stoning wildlife already qualifies you as a grade A pump action cunt. But this is especially heinous because the Hawaiian monk seal is critically endangered. There's only around 1,500 of them left. Now, when locals rightfully tore him a new asshole and told him he was going to be fined for it, his response was, "I'm rich. I don't care."
I just want to talk to him.
Yeah, as it turns out, the walking ad for birth control here probably should have paid attention because that shit went triple platinum viral and started a domino effect that wrecked his fucking life. He got doxxed, the 2 trucking companies he owns got review bombed into the fucking floor, and he pissed off the mayor of Maui so badly that he has personally directed the state and federal government to throw the book at the cunt. He is facing a minimum of a $70,000 fine and a year in prison. But charges take a while to stick, and he could still wriggle out of them with a good lawyer.
Hi, I'm Saul Goodman.
Which is why, while he was trying to walk back to his hotel, someone who I will be referring to as Hawaiian Batman jumped him and beat the fucking brakes off of him. Now, I would never condone vigilante violence, and neither does the Hawaiian government. But when they were investigating this incident, no one who saw it, for the life of them, could identify who did it. It must have been the wind. So, they never caught the guy. However, Hawaiian Senator Brenton Awa, after also making it clear that he doesn't condone violence,
our attorney over here wants to make it clear we don't condone violence, but
wrote the guy a letter of recognition for protecting the environment and dubbed him the ambassador of Aloha. Which, first of all, fucking based. But second, when they give the dude that bashed you an award, that is the universe telling you that you're a waste of air that should have been blown into a crusty sock, you c***. This spider is a vampire. Just not the way you think it is. This adorable little guy is literally called a vampire spider. And as you may expect, for something named after Dracula, it craves one thing: blood. Just one teeny little problem with that. They can't fucking get it themselves. You see, Vampire spiders are a species of jumping spider, and jumping spiders basically never bite people or other mammals. Second off, they don't even have the right equipment to get your blood out.
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
Because I didn't call it a little guy for nothing. They are only a completely average 0.3 inches wide. They straight do not have the strength or length to penetrate your skin. So that begs the question, where the fuck do they get their blood? I mean, what could a spider possibly get its hands on that carries human blood? Gotcha! Yeah, it's fucking mosquitoes. The vamp spiders specifically target these annoying fuckers, but not just mozzies in general. No, they wait for them to bite something first. And then, once they've completed the blood heist and try to make off with the goods, the vamp spider hits the mozzie with a "The fuck do you think you're going, cunt?" and jumps it, murdering the mosquito and sucking the blood out as a sweet treat. I guess if it's a vampire that kills vampires, it's less Dracula and more a blade spider.